Chapter 2268. Reincarnation in the Void. Both Jian Wushuang and Bing Shan stopped whatever they were doing. Jian Wushuang stood there coldly. Bing Shan stood there as well. By then his murderous intent and frenzy had dissipated. He stood there frowning as he watched blood oozing out from his body. The surrounding ancient era experts were shocked. Lord Bing Shan is injured. How? It's Lord Bing Shan. One step away from being master of Holy Land, Lord Bing Shan was injured by a chaotic realm rascal. Unbelievable. The ancient era experts were all in awe. If they had not witnessed it for themselves, they would not have believed it. As ancient era experts, they knew how strong Bing Shan was. Bing Shan's saber skills were powerful, and he not only knew how to attack, his self-defense mechanism was even more terrifying. That combination of saber skills and saber essence armor made him famous in the absolute beginning divine world. They had never expected him to get injured during the fight against Jian Wushuang. The armor did not block Jian Wushuang's sword. That blade. Bing Shan stared at Jian Wushuang as he felt his sword essence armor changing. You could use reincarnation rules of order to revert my sword essence back into the origin. It's not much, but you managed to injure me. Decent swordsmanship, even better reincarnation rules of order. Bing Shan knew that even though his swordsmanship was good, how he utilized reincarnation rules of order was even better. Jian Wushuang's realization of reincarnation rules of order was not high, most likely he was new to it, but already he was very familiar with it. To apply reincarnation rules of order to swordsmanship and morph objects back to their original state was impossible even for higher experts from back in the absolute beginning divine world. Thank you. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and he was not delighted at all. He knew it was all thanks to One-Star Man's reincarnation pearl. The small-scale reincarnation within the pearl had helped Jian Wushuang tremendously. No, just in terms of realization, Jian Wushuang's usage of reincarnation rules of order had significantly improved over the past 3,000 years. Samsara was his strongest self-created skill. It is not the most powerful, but the terrifying part came with the reincarnation at the tip of his blade. He could make fauna reincarnate, along with natural materials. He could revert Bing Shan's sword essence, but only by a bit. But that was enough to give Jian Wushuang a shot. Guess I underestimated you. I thought I could defeat you or at least suppress you under these restrictions. I never expected your reincarnation rules of order to make such a huge improvement across these 1,000 years. Even I can no longer defeat you, I may even lose to you, Bing Shan said. It was true. He had a perfect combination of attack and defense. His saber skills would destroy everything in his way. His saber essence armor would block everything else. It was a scary combination. But now, Jian Wushuang's samsara made his armor useless, losing his self-defense mechanism. Even though Jian Wushuang couldn't go against his saber skills, he had unbelievable self-defense mechanisms. Even if he were to absorb the full blow from Bing Shan, it would be Bing Shan who got injured first. I could defeat you, but I could never kill you, Jian Wushuang said. He knew that well. Bing Shan's fighting power was way stronger than that of any other divine demon he had even met, including Old Monster Jiao. Only Emperor 13 could be stronger than him. It was impossible for Jian Wushuang to kill him. Even though you are stronger than I imagined, I will keep to my word, Bing Shan stared at Jian Wushuang. As strong as you are only limited to this land, a chaotic realm like you could never go against those lords at the absolute beginning divine world. How will I know if I don't try? Jian Wushuang said. Bing Shan frowned but did not say more. He looked at the ancient era experts and said, Guys, it should be clear why they would want to open the link passage for us. After hearing that, many ancient era experts looked confused. They had been trapped for too long a time, but the absolute beginning divine world had never really cared about them. Most of the ancient era experts were at most chaotic divine demons, which meant they were nothing but ants to the masters of Holy Land. The only person one could consider not an ant would be Bing Shan. Because of that, the experts at absolute beginning divine world never bothered about them. When they opened the link passage in the first era, they did not wake the experts there up. It had always been the case, and the chaotic divine demons knew. But now, The absolute beginning divine world had opened the link passage for them to escape. But where had this opportunity come from? The ancient era experts looked at the masked white-clothed woman at the center of the void. Chapter 2269 Public Wrath Above the Void. No one could decipher the white-clothed woman Lung Rukshu's reaction due to her veil, but her brows showed nothing but mockery. The ancient era experts started talking amongst each other. They knew they owed it to Lung Rushue. Lung Rushue with her heavenly body was the lineal disciple if that master of Holy Land back at the absolute beginning divine world, and that master treated her with incomparable importance. The reason why the master of Holy Land would sacrifice so much to open the link passage was only to bring Lung Rushue back. The ancient era experts simply hitchhiked. Since the link passage was already open, they felt they might as well bring everyone back. Seems like you all are aware. Bing Shan looked around and smiled. Lord Lung is the reason why the link passage will open. If Lord Lung's stuck here, do you really think you will be able to return to the absolute beginning divine world? Even if you do, what do you think the master will do to you? Bing Shan's words shocked many. It was what they had been worrying about. The main purpose was to bring Lung Rushue over to the absolute beginning divine world. If they left her and departed, they would definitely suffer the wrath of the master. The ancient era experts made their decision. Figures gradually approached from the edges of the void. In an instant, they had surrounded Jian Wushuang at the center. The ancient era experts had their eyes all fixed on Jian Wushuang. Sword Emperor, we should not go over your personal grievances with Lord Leng, but since it is only due to her that we can leave. You know what I mean. A magnificent voice came from Chen Qi. Chen Qi had followed Old Monster Jiao to attack Thunderbolt Island but had been obliterated by Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang's powers struck fear into Chen Qi as well. But despite that, he was in no position to back down. Previously, it had been to return Old Monster Jiao a favor, but now it was for the smooth departure from the land. The other ancient era experts felt similarly. Sword Emperor, we are not willing to be your enemies, but we have no choice. After so many years of slumber, if I don't take this chance to escape, I will die in my sleep. Keeping Lord Lung here means keeping all of us here. Sword Emperor, we hope you can make the right decision. Sword Emperor, please don't push us down that road. Threatening words came from their mouths one by one. The ancient era experts were all determined. As they had said, keeping Lord Lung would be to keep all of them there. They would never agree to that. Shoo. A figure appeared beside Jian Wushuang. It was Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang, what should we do? Emperor Bai frowned as he glanced at all the ancient era experts. With Jian Wushuang and Bing Shan, he did not interfere. But he would certainly not back down knowing that everyone was targeting Jian Wushuang. They are right, blocking Lung Rushue would be to block all of them, pushing them to a dead end. But letting Lung Rushue would be pushing me to a dead end as well. Jian Wushuang was determined. He needed no second thoughts. He made his decision before arriving at heaven's horizon. And once a decision was made, Jian Wushuang would not waver. I said, I need to stay here regardless of the price. No one can stop me. That cold voice resonated across the land. Lung Rukshu's mockery grew more intense as she revealed a playful smile under her veil. The ancient era expert's eyes turned bloodshot. Don't blame us, Sword Emperor. Chen Qi's voice was eerie cold. Let's take him down. Die. The ancient era experts did not hesitate. Without Bing Shan, there were still 138 ancient era experts. At that moment, all 138 were charging towards Jian Wushuang from all directions. Emperor Bai snorted, as the shimmering enormous golden emperor appeared behind him. At that moment, a golden armored figure appeared around him. He had used both the 9-star armor and Punisher God. Jian Wushuang gazed upon the incoming ancient era experts. Although most of them were chaotic divine demons, hitting 3rd stage Great Emperor fighting powers at most, there were 10-odd experts beyond chaotic divine demon like Chen Qi and Old Monster Jiao. Each of them was at half-step divine demon levels. Those in my way, prepare to meet your fate. Jian Wushuang was furious as he pulled out his Blood Mountain sword beaming with crimson light. A terrifying aura oppressed the entire area. War had broken out. Crap, the great emperors of the eternal chaotic world all witnessed it from a void not too far away. When they saw the ancient era experts charge towards Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai, their faces changed dramatically. But no matter how anxious they were, there was nothing much they could do. Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai had instructed them not to make any rash decisions. After all, they were only first stage and second stage great emperors. Sending them to ancient era experts would be asking them to die. Chapter 2270 Chaotic Warfare in a dark void some distance away from the battlefield. Haha, the show has begun. A cheerful laugh resonated as more than a dozen figures stood around. They all had impressive auras and the one-star man was their leader. They had been at the void for some time already but had not yet decided to reveal themselves. They were shocked when they witnessed the fight between Jian Wushuang and Bing Shan. Now, they saw the war happening in front of their eyes as well. 100-odd experts, the weakest won a chaotic divine demon. They really embarrassed themselves using so many people against two chaotic realms. They have no choice. They can only demonstrate chaotic realm level powers anyway under the restrictions. If they go one-on-one, they will certainly die. One-star man. The war has begun, should we just watch? The dozen people looked towards one-star man. No rush. The one-star man waved his hand and said, it's not time yet. The boy's going against 100-odd chaotic divine demon experts. You're not worried? A grey-clothed old lady asked. Relax, the boy is tougher than he looks and he learnt inverse cultivation. It won't be that easy to kill him. The one-star man smiled. He was confident in Jian Wushuang. The grey-clothed old lady raised an eyebrow. Seems like you know quite a bit about this boy, but what is the plan between you and that guy? Seems like the plan relies mostly upon the boy. The others all looked towards one-star man. They had known for the longest time that the one-star man had a plan, but only a few people really knew what it was about. Although they were 7-star Black Sect experts, they didn't have enough clearance. They simply followed orders. No rush, soon you will know. One-star man replied. The grey-clothed old lady and the others looked at each other but did not question further. The black void at heaven's horizon had already been immersed in the heat of war. Bing Shan did not attack again and retreated back to Lung Ruxu's side. Lord Bing Shan, how did it feel? Lung Ruxue looked at Bing Shan. A bit aggrieving. Bing Shan looked at the place where Jian Wushuang had stabbed him. The wounds had recovered, but he could still feel the sting. Before going against Jian Wushuang, he had never expected Jian Wushuang to harm him. My saber essence armor was mainly divine power, supplemented with saber essence. But the restrictions reduced my divine power to chaotic realm levels. If I had even half-step divine demon divine powers, the armor would have never been penetrated by the Sword Emperor, Bing Shan said. Jian Wushuang's samsara was unique with its reincarnation techniques, but in the eyes of Bing Shan, it was no more than a parlor trick. Unfortunately, under the restrictions, parlor tricks were enough to injure him. That was why Bing Shan felt aggrieved. I underestimated him, but it's okay, it'll all end the same. The divine demons would block him all the way, maybe even kill him. With them blocking, Sword Emperor would have no way to reach to you, Bing Shan said. May not be that way, Lung Ruxue shook her head. May not. Bing Shan looked over astonished. You think Sword Emperor could survive the divine demon's attack? More than just survive. Has an inverse cultivation after all. Lung Ruxue laughed. Watch. Bing Shan was astonished but did not ask anything further and spectated the fight. There were 138 ancient era experts making their moves on Jian Wushuang at the same time from all sides. And they all demonstrated their abilities. They did everything they could. Some sealed space-time to restrict his movements. Some formed great divine powers to press against Jian Wushuang. Some used long-range divine weapons like the Hongjun Golden Swords against Jian Wushuang, and some directly charged against him. Some used soul attacks. The widespread attack went for Jian Wushuang at immense speeds. Jian Wushuang's eyes were gleaming. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand let out a loud scream as the sword essence pierced him. Scram! A loud sound followed by endless divine power swept from the Blood Mountain sword. The sweep was like a multicolored sword river in the sky. And the sword river was fierce and roared upon impact. Several attacks directly bounced out, space-time seals were destroyed and billowing divine powers retreated in an instant. Endless divine power came bursting from Jian Wushuang's body and formed a huge region around him. He had filled the region with chaotic divine demon-level divine power. With that around, the divine demons could not use any space-time or divine power suppression methods against him. Hualala. A sword appeared from the heavens. It was a crimson sword. The person wielding it was a man beyond chaotic divine demon. The crimson light blocked the sun and went straight for Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang lifted his head but did not pull out his sword. Instead, a huge sword essence concentrated in mid-air to form a sword shadow and slice it. Dang! A metallic collision could be heard, and the crimson sword bounced out. Hong! A ghost, billowed by nether light, appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, holding a battle sword. Shua! 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 3 times the man swayed his battle sword. The first sword went for his throat. The second went for his heart. The third went straight for his skull. Chapter 2271 Revenge Kill. What a strange saber skill. Jian Wushuang's face darkened, but he did not slow down one bit. Power of spacetime rolled out as Jian Wushuang moved like a phantom, easily avoiding all 3 saber lights. He had just found his composure. Wang. A strong soul attack was charging towards him. It had been performed by a chaotic divine demon not too far away. The chaotic divine demon was best at soul attacks, but he could only perform 3rd stage Great Emperor levels under the restrictions on the Earth. But Jian Wushuang had his 5-gem armor, soul-swallowing pearl, and his own strong soul power. The soul attack dissipated without even making Jian Wushuang frown. As Jian Wushuang was being soul attacked, a black shadow appeared before him. The black shadow held a dark, eerie dagger oozing with black liquid. It was poison. Die. A devious smile could be seen from the face of that shadow as the dagger went straight for Jian Wushuang's skull. At such a close distance, at such high speeds, Jian Wushuang could not have possibly avoided it. But at that moment, boom, his mind went blank. He was being soul attacked by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's soul attack was being complemented by his own soul power, the golden light scripture from the 3 divine lights, and the soul-swallowing pearl. Only half-step divine demons could block it. Chaotic divine demons had no way to resist. The black shadow's eyes turned hollow and paused right there. The dagger did not move an inch either. Shio! A golden light went bursting by. It was the Hong Jun golden sword, slicing the black shadow down. That was the end of the black shadow. Under the attack of so many ancient-era experts, Jian Wushuang did not die immediately but had taken one down instead. Now Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was at full speed. Hua! 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 The swordsmanship seemed casual but was, in fact, unfathomable, and sliced ancient-era experts, complemented by his great divine power and perception abilities. There were too many ancient-era experts for Jian Wushuang to block everything completely. So he did not bother to resist. As he was being attacked, he kept striking back. His soul attack was also on full blast. Careful. Watch out for his soul attack. His swordsmanship as well. Bullshit. With his soul attack, he won't be able to block it even if we chaotic divine demons took precautions. Then let's not give him the chance to attack one-on-one. In a fit of anger, the ancient-era experts started teaming up. But soon they realized something. Jian Wushuang's self-defense mechanism was too strong. Indeed, Jian Wushuang was not able to block all of their coordinated attacks. That meant that Jian Wushuang was constantly being struck in vital places like his head. Even with his protective gear, the sheer power alone should have greatly injured Jian Wushuang. If it had been them, their holy bodies would have long ago collapsed, but Jian Wushuang had been struck more than 100 times since the battle had begun, but he showed no signs of collapsing. In fact, his aura has not been weakened at all. 100-odd attacks, but he's still fine. Don't talk about collapsing. How is he still uninjured? Impossible. The ancient-era experts were all in awe. If they had inverse cultivation's 7th step, the perfect chaotic holy body, they would not have found it impossible. Jian Wushuang, with his perfect chaotic holy body, as long as he had enough divine power, would recover immediately no matter how bad the damage. Under attacks from at least a third-stage Great Emperor, it was impossible for one not to get injured. Jian Wushuang seemed uninjured, but it was because he had recovered immediately with divine power. That kept his fighting power and aura at the pinnacle. Die. Jian Wushuang moved like a phantom as his Blood Mountain sword went for an Ancient Era expert's throat like a snake out of its hole. Crap, the Ancient Era expert was taken aback. By the time he could react, a great soul attack had struck him. Kai. The sword light had pierced his throat. Crap. The surrounding Ancient Era experts were all looking awful. That was the 8th expert Jian Wushuang had taken down. The battle had not been going on for long, but 8 Ancient Era experts had fallen. How terrifying was that? How could that be possible? Bing Shan frowned. If I received that much damage, I would have been severely injured by now. Not just him, Emperor Bai as well, Leng Rushue smiled. Bing Shan noticed the battlefield with Emperor Bai as well. Amongst the 138 Ancient Era experts, a significant number of them were going against Emperor Bai as well. Emperor Bai was in a similar situation to Jian Wushuang, but his aura had not decreased under the attacks. Inverse cultivation is indeed impressive, Bing Shan murmured. I said they could never kill Jian Wushuang. Holding him back is a different thing, Leng Rushue said. It's too early for that, most of them have not given their all yet, Bing Shan said. Leng Rushue raised her eyebrow. Then, Wang. The heaven's horizon shook as the ripples along it became more concentrated. There was greater movement. Chapter 2272. Invincible. Invincible. It's happening. Bing Shan's pupils shrank as he sensed the change at heaven's horizon. He roared, the link passage is about to open, don't waste any more time. The surrounding Ancient Era experts could sense the change at heaven's horizon as well. After listening to Bing Shan's roar, the Ancient Era experts' gazes became more fierce. Use all your trump cards to take him down, give it your all. Ancient Era experts had no intention to hold back anymore. Those absolute beginning divine world Ancient Era experts had all been very strong during their pinnacle and had many tricks behind their sleeve. They may not have gone that far if they were fighting normally under the restrictions. But things were different now that they had decided to give it their all. The remaining Ancient Era experts had started giving it their all. Strong auras started emerging, many Ancient Era experts had started using secret skills. Some even spewed blood essence to boost their powers. Trump cards were being used one by one. Soon, the Ancient Era experts made their move. One by one, they displayed their trump cards. Solidifying Blood Divine Finger, God Slayer Spear, Nanyan Divine Light, Sanguis, Demon Interfectum. Terrifying attacks were coming in from all directions. They were all so much stronger than the ones Jian Wushuang had endured. This was the Ancient Era experts trying their very best. Every attack was outrageously strong. Jian Wushuang stood at the center of the void as he felt the waves of attack heading towards him. He could only block a few, but the rest swallowed him like a tsunami. Hong long long. A terrifying roar resonated across the earth, along with a strong divine power storm. The vast void along the heaven's horizon was completely surrounded by the divine power storm. Far from the battlefield, the eternal chaotic world great emperors were all dumbfounded by the sight. That's too terrifying. Those Ancient Era experts could all demonstrate third-stage Great Emperor abilities if they all use their trump card. Sword Emperor, will he make it? The eternal chaotic world Great Emperors had full confidence in the Sword Emperor and Emperor Bai. Based on their understanding, they were invincible. But now, they were not so sure. At that moment, they could still see a figure at the center of the battlefield. It was Jian Wushuang, and he was dissipating. He had collapsed. Jian Wushuang's holy body had completely collapsed. This eternal chaotic world great emperors were all stunned. The Ancient Era experts were all elated. Is he dead? The Ancient Era experts heaved a sigh of relief. Jian Wushuang was only a chaotic realm expert, but they had stressed out the Ancient Era experts pretty well. But now, after the ancient era experts had all teamed up and given it their best, Jian Wushuang had finally succumbed to the attacks. Looks like he's dead. Bing Shan held his hands together as he stared at the battlefield. Don't get too excited. Lung Rushue smiled. Heh. Bing Shan was confused. Jian Wushuang's holy body had already collapsed. What else could happen? As the divine power storm dissipated, the earth slowly calmed down. Jian Wushuang was no longer in the spot where he had used to be. He must have collapsed under the attack of all the ancient era experts. And that was the case. Under the attack of so many experts, collapsing was the only way it would end. But did it mean that Jian Wushuang was dead? The next moment, large amounts of divine power was condensing at that void. After a moment, a perfectly intact figure reappeared. Jian Wushuang was still holding his sword, his aura unhindered. How is that possible? We destroyed his holy body. The ancient era experts were dumbfounded. They saw his body collapse, but at the very next moment, his body reformed. And he was still uninjured. This ability. He has the body of undying. Chen Qi, who had fought against Jian Wushuang once, said, I searched through Emperor Bai and Sword Emperor's information. Both of them are inverse cultivators and had their holy bodies collapse before. Now it is apparent, they are undying. Body of undying? The ancient era experts froze. Body of undying was a power only undying saints could attain in the absolute beginning divine world. It was a terrifying ability, the best life-saving means around. They had all witnessed undying saints collapsing then reforming. But those were undying saints. Jian Wushuang was only a chaotic realm. How could he have possessed undying saint abilities? How was that possible? Body of undying. Bing Shan froze as well. He knew how terrifying the body of undying was. He had it himself. Unfortunately, under the restrictions, he could not use it at all. But Jian Wushuang, a chaotic realm rascal, had the body of undying and was restricted by the formation that bound the earth at all. Now I know why you said those chaotic divine demons would not kill Sword Emperor. Bing Shan looked deep into Lung Rukshu's eyes. The latter smiled. She had witnessed Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai reforming before. She knew they had the body of undying. With superb skills and bodies of undying, Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang were invincible in those land. Chapter 2273 Saint Soul. Elder Shihua. Not only was he so strong, but he had the body of undying as well. They had all done their best to destroy Jian Wushuang's holy body. For that, many of them had paid heavy prices to demonstrate those moves. They had barely managed to do it once, much less a second time. But Jian Wushuang's body of undying could reform a countless amount of times. They could never kill Jian Wushuang. Invincible. Invincible. The ancient era experts were howling. Indeed, Jian Wushuang was invincible in their eyes. There was nothing the ancient era experts could do to him. Suddenly, boom. The earth shook suddenly as a faint light emerged from the dark and foggy heavens horizon. The faint light grew brighter. Indistinctly, a familiar aura emerged from the other end of the light. The aura of the absolute beginning divine world. The ancient era experts all sensed it and immediately went fanatical over it. It has begun. The few masters have created a gap for the link passage. At this rate, it won't take long for the entire link passage to emerge. The ancient era experts were all extremely excited. Bing Shan's eyes turned cold and he howled, the link passage will open soon, but no one is to enter before Lord Lung. The only way to enter the link passage is to block the Sword Emperor with your life. After Lord Lung enters, do as you please. The ancient era experts went into a frenzy upon hearing it. Countless bloodshot eyes were staring at Jian Wushuang. Undoubtedly, Jian Wushuang was impossible to kill. But all they needed to do now was to block Jian Wushuang. They could definitely do that. Let's go. We need to trap him, don't give him a chance to escape. We need to let Lord Lung go first. The ancient era experts said it again. But this time, they had no intention of killing Jian Wushuang, they simply needed to trap him. Ancient era experts had various killing tactics and even more ways to entrap people. The sheer number of ancient-era experts flooded Jian Wushuang beyond comprehension. It would be unrealistic for Jian Wushuang to be able to break through. Leng Ruxue and Bing Shan stood side by side as they watched the light grow brighter from within the grey mist. A link passage gradually appeared, but it was still narrow and unstable. As long as the link passage stabilized, they could step through directly. But at that moment, one Star Man and the others in the void made their move. "Guys, it's our turn." One Star Man looked around with dazzling eyes. "Haha, finally. It's been so long since I stretched my bones. Let's go." 10 odd streaks of flowing light flew in from the void and directly into the battlefield. "Haha, 3 big holy lands, 4 big holy tribes, 8 big holy sects rascals, come meet the Saint Soul." A burst of hearty laughter was made by a thin old man in a black robe. His eyes were eerily grey, and a grey fire seemed to burn from within, making him look extremely devious. As the laughter echoed, a horrifying soul power billowed through the surrounding ancient-era experts. Under that power, many weak chaotic divine demons lost consciousness and fainted upon contact. Only stronger chaotic divine demons and beyond could resist it. What a strong soul attack, stronger than sword emperors. The ancient-era experts that had managed to stay awake were shocked. Jian Wushuang's soul attack was strong. But its power could only be felt when concentrated into one-to-one attacks against chaotic divine demons. If he were to spread that soul power around, it would do minimal damage to surrounding ancient-era experts. But now, the skinny old man did as such, and half of the chaotic divine demons fainted. How strong was that soul attack? It's Saint Soul. It's him. The old man's not dead. The ancient-era experts were angered upon hearing that name. Saint Soul was one of the strongest experts in the 7-star Black Sect, Ancient Era. He had been named a saint for his undying saint abilities and received the title Soul for his mastery in soul power. Even back at the absolute beginning divine world, very few undying saints could have surpassed him in terms of soul power. Thankfully, due to the restrictions, his soul power could only be maintained at chaotic realm levels, unable to display its full power. Without the restrictions, he would have killed thousands of chaotic divine demons immediately. "Little soul, you stole my thunder," said the grey-clothed old lady. "Haha, I could never, Elder Shihua." Saint Soul laughed respectfully. Chapter 2274. Solo Confrontation. Elder Shihua. It is Elder Shihua. Oh my god. The divine demons from the ancient past were stunned. Saint Soul was only a top-tier undying saint, but Elder Shihua was a legend in the undying saint realm. She was extremely old and had been very famous within the absolute beginning divine world even before Saint Soul started cultivating. She was known as one of the most terrifying undying saints. No one knew how powerful she really was as she rarely engaged in combat. Even Saint Soul was weaker than Elder Shihua. Haha. I never thought that there would still be youngsters who remembered me after so many years. Elder Shihua smiled. Her eyes radiated coldness. Watch out. A loud yell was heard. Just when the experts from the ancient past were taking some precautions, a silver ray of light streaked across the battlefield. It was so fast that the 3 experts from the ancient past died without having any time to react. A hole appeared in their chests. Their divine bodies withered before they could cry out as it turned into dead bodies instantly. Hiss. The experts from the ancient past took a sharp and cold breath. They looked at the silver ray of light, which was now sitting on the shoulder of Elder Shihua, in surprise. It was a small, silver snake with light spots. It was this snake which had killed 3 experts from the ancient past instantly and sucked their bodies dry. It is Elder Shehua's snake, Flower God. It is extremely venomous. Legend has it that if you ever come into contact with its poison, you will become a dead, withered corpse immediately. Looks like the legends were true, one of the experts from the ancient past said in shock. There were other experts who came along with Saint Soul and Elder Shihua. They too attacked. They were recognized immediately when they used their incredible fighting power. Saint Iceflame, Old Monster Mang, Emperor Man, these were famous people back in the absolute beginning divine world, and all of them stood in front of these experts from the ancient past. There were top-tier experts from the 7-star Black Sect. The weakest of them was in the Undying Saint realm. The only people from the 7-star Black Sect who had survived the great battle of the ancient past were in the Undying Saint realm. Anyone weaker than that got massacred. These experts had also gone into deep slumber within this heaven and earth and had just awakened today. Even though they had the advantage in terms of numbers, the experts from the ancient past were all extremely cautious and frightened when they were fighting against these 10 experts in the Undying Saint realm. There were mere divine demons. Even if some of them were in realms more powerful than that, they were still far away from the Undying Saint realm. In their primes, any one of these Undying Saints would have been able to massacre them easily. Even though they were under the restrictions of heaven and earth, the fighting power they had was still much greater than the divine demons from the ancient past. When these 10 Undying Saints entered the battlefield, the tide of the battle turned instantly. "Little one, we can handle these people. Go and do what you need to do," Elder Shihua looked over at Jen Wushuang and said after she killed another divine demon. "Thank you, fellow seniors," Jen Wushuang thanked them gratefully. "No problem." Elder Shihua waved her hand and said. Jen Wushuang turned and left without hesitation. Previously, the experts from the ancient past had had him preoccupied and not given him any chance to leave. But now, Elder Shihua and the other experts came and stopped these experts from the ancient past. Jen Wushuang was now free to do as he wished. Whoosh! Jen Wushuang's figure blinked and he appeared in front of Lung Rushue and Bing Shan instantly. Jen Wushuang scanned the heavens horizon behind him and realized the passageway had almost completely opened. However, it had yet to stabilize. There is still time, Jen Wushuang thought as he clenched his fists tightly. Bing Shan turned pale when he saw Jen Wushuang appear in front of him. He immediately stood in front of Lung Rushue and said, "Sword Emperor, if you want to stop Palace Master Leng, you will have to pass through me first." A ray of killing intent flashed through Jen Wushuang's eyes. However, before he could attack, another voice was heard. "Ha ha! Bing Shan, you have the audacity to interrupt the private matters of 2 youngsters?" A hearty laugh boomed as a figure appeared beside Jen Wushuang. It was an elder who seemed peaceful. It was 1-star man. "Senior 1-star man," Jen Wushuang said in greeting. He was not surprised when 1-star man appeared. He knew that 1-star man was the one who had called experts like Elder Shihua over to help. "1-star man, is it you?" Bing Shan looked over at 1-star man with a serious expression. There had been many powerful experts in the 7-star Black Sect back in its prime. The most famous of them all were the 7 stars, which represented 7 top-tier experts. The strongest among them was Emperor 13, who could have gone against even the Master of Holy Land. The other 6 might not be as powerful as Emperor 13, but they were all very close to the Master of Holy Land realm. Even though Bing Shan and these people were similar in the realms they were in, their fighting power was far inferior. Any one of the 7 stars could wreck him in a battle. Even though the 1-star man was not part of the 7 stars, Bing Shan knew well that 1-star man was very close to him in terms of fighting power. He was a candidate to be one of them. He was definitely a fierce enemy. "Bing Shan, your opponent today is me. I will not let you hinder these 2 little ones," 1-star man smiled and said with absolute confidence. Bing Shan's face turned dark. He knew how powerful 1-star man was. If 1-star man gave it his all to stop him, there was no way he could divert his attention and care about Lung Rushue. The other experts from the ancient past were all busy dealing with people like Elder Shihua. There was no way they could help out. This meant that Lung Rushue had to face Jen Wushuang alone. However, Jen Wushuang was extremely powerful. Lung Rushue interrupted Bing Shan's thoughts as she said, "Lord Bing Shan, you can put all your attention on 1-star man. There is no need to worry about me." "What? Palace Master Leng?" Bing Shan knitted his eyebrows and was about to continue when Lung Rushue interrupted him again. "Lord Bing Shan, you are underestimating me. Do not forget, I am my master's lineal disciple," Lung Rushue waved at him and said. Chapter 2275 Jen Wushuang and Lung Rushue. Lung Rukshu's words got Bing Shan thinking. He immediately recalled his lord from the absolute beginning divine world before nodding his head. Indeed. That lord's vision was incredible. Lung Rushua had to be very different and unique if the Lord was willing to accept her as a lineal disciple and pay a hefty price to bring her back from this sealed-off heaven and earth back to the absolute beginning divine world. Even though Jen Wushuang was incredibly powerful, Lung Rushua should have no problem staying alive since she was that Lord's disciple. Bing Shan thought of this and hesitated no longer. His figure flickered as he appeared at one side of the vast space. One-star man, you are almost on the same level as the 7 stars. Let me see how strong you really are, Bing Shan said coldly. Ha ha. As you wish. One-star man laughed heartily as he too appeared in that vast space. These two powerful experts started their fight. They fought each other fairly and no more dared to interrupt. Now that Bing Shong and One-Star Man were headed for the vast space at one side, the only people left at heaven's horizon were Jen Wushuang and Lung Rushua. They stood apart, looking at each other. Jen Wushuang. I never thought that there would be a day that we would face off against each other. Lung Rushua looked at Jen Wushuang playfully. I have been waiting for this day for a very long time. Since you took over Rushuang's body and left the Green Fire world tens of thousands of years ago, I predicted this day would come. Jen Wushuang looked at Lung Rushua coldly and indifferently. Is that the case? I already took notice of you when you entered the eternal chaotic world and made yourself known. At that point in time, I could have killed you easily without giving you the chance to become stronger, much less become who you are today. Lung Rushua raised her eyebrows and said. Jen Wushuang's face turned dark. He knew she was speaking the truth. Lung Rushua had been in the eternal chaotic world for quite some time before he came. She had joined the Holocaust sect and had incredible status and techniques. If she had used the power of the Holocaust sect to assassinate him, he would already have died. Do you know why I have yet to kill you and have allowed you to live until today? Lung Rushua smiled. Rushuang, Jen Wushuang said softly. Smart. Even though I have suppressed that dumb woman's consciousness and she does not usually get in my way, she would resist with all her might if I were to do something that would harm you. This would cause great trouble for me. Hence, I allowed you to continue to grow, Lung Rushua said playfully. However, I did not expect you to grow so powerful so quickly. By the time I had complete control over this body with the help of my master and the opportunities she left behind, you had already grown and it was extremely difficult to kill you at that point in time. Even though Lung Rushua said this casually, Jen Wushuang's heart was trembling. Rushuang, even though she is suppressed, she is still trying her best to protect me. Jen Wushuang clenched his fists tightly, to the point where his nails were biting into his flesh. That dumb woman is asleep right now. Even if I were to kill you now, she would have no idea. Even if she knew, there is no way she will cause any trouble for me anymore. However, it is still troublesome that we share this body together. I tried to wipe away her consciousness, but I was afraid that I would be wounded as well since we share a common body. Hence, she is still alive. However, Lung Rukshu's tone suddenly changed. Jen Wushuang, do you know what the first thing I will do after I reach the absolute beginning divine world is? Jen Wushuang turned pale. Haha. Looks like you've guessed it. Yes, the first thing I will do is to ask my master to help me wipe out her consciousness. Given how powerful my master is, she can wipe her out without having any negative effects on me even if we share the same body. At that point in time, this body will be truly mine and I will not need to share this body with that dumb woman anymore. Lung Rushua laughed hysterically. Jen Wushuang's expression turned extremely cold. An extremely strong killing intent started gathering around Jen Wushuang. What? Are you angry that I am going to wipe out your wife's consciousness? Do you want to suppress me? Do you have the ability to do so? Lung Rushua burst out laughing. Jen Wushuang then exhaled lightly. His face became calm and he said, the reason you talked so much was to buy time for the passageway to fully open. If you anger me, it will be much easier to escape into that passageway. Do you think I will fall into your trap? Lung Rukshu's smile faded as she smiled once again. Looks like you saw through my plan. So what? Do you think you can stop me? Of course. Jen Wushuang grunted as he attacked. With a simple dash, he appeared in front of Lung Rushue. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand slashed towards her head with incredible penetrating power. Shio! The cold blade passed through Lung Rukshu's head, but there were no bloodstains at all. Hee hee. You really are ruthless. Your wife also resides in this body. You both are married. There is a saying, a couple should have deep affection for each other even if they are together for only a short period of time. You should hold back a little to ensure that your wife's body is not destroyed. Lung Rushue appeared in the space to one side as she said playfully, "She is so fast." Jian Wushuang was surprised, but his vision became sharper and more resolute. If the body is destroyed, I can find another one. What I want is my wife's consciousness, her soul, Jian Wushuang said coldly as a wave of powerful sword essence swept out in all directions. Whoosh! The entire battlefield became a vast ocean filled with sword essence. The sword ocean spread far and wide, and Jian Wushuang was the master within this ocean. Jian Wushuang's eyes were bloodshot as the Blood Mountain sword in his hand turned crimson red. Whoosh! A crimson sword light burst forth as it dyed the entire heaven and earth red. This battlefield turned dark crimson red. This sword light stirred the power of the ocean of sword essence and appeared in front of Lung Rushue immediately. Sword Principal Shen Luo, Sangui's Extremis Style. Chapter 2276 Poison Girl. The explosive crimson red lights penetrated the body of Lung Rushue. The terrifying aura instantly ripped Lung Rushue and the space she was in into pieces. There was no sign of pleasure on Jian Wushuang's face. On the contrary, he took Lung Rushue even more seriously. What a unique martial art motion. Jian Wushuang stood where Lung Rushue had disappeared. His soul power detected Lung Rushue immediately. She was standing in the air to one side of him. Ha ha! You really are heartless. Lung Rushue smiled playfully. Her martial art motion is one of the most powerful of all that I have seen, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. No matter how unusual or eerie one's martial art motion was, Jian Wushuang could detect where the person was with his soul power instantly. However, it was difficult for him to detect where Lung Rushue was when she used her martial art motion, which caused both of his attacks to miss. You have already attacked twice. Now, it is my turn, Lung Rushue said as she radiated an extremely destructive aura. Her jet black hair turned white immediately. Her beautiful irises turned grey. Her aura changed completely. She had originally been an angel in white clothes. She instantly turned into a demon who would destroy the entire world. That destructive aura filled the entire heaven and earth. At the same time, she radiated an extremely cold aura. In an instant, the space-time that Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushue was in was frozen. Heaven and earth went dead quiet. It was as though they were in hell as the place was filled with a death mist. Her unique constitution evolved. Jian Wushuang thought as he felt the terrifying death mist. He felt depressed under the effects of the death mist. It was as though he was going to turn into a corpse. Jian Wushuang, this is the first time I've used my power after I completely awakened my unique constitution. You should feel lucky that you'll be the first to experience it. The smile and playfulness in Lung Rushue disappeared. What replaced it was absolute coldness and terror. Jian Wushuang looked gloomy. From what he knew, Lung Rushue rarely used her power to fight. At least he had yet to see her fight. No one knew how powerful she really was. Jian Wushuang guessed that Lung Rukshu's fighting power was at the level of a great emperor. But now, without even attacking, just the aura of Lung Rushue was putting great pressure on Jian Wushuang. This aura was more powerful than that of old monster Jiao or Chen Qi. It was at the same level as Bing Shan's aura. Jian Wushuang. Today, I will show you what true destruction looks like. Lung Rushue looked at Jian Wushuang indifferently. She remained in place as she pointed her finger out in front of her. Instantly, an endless grey mist started to fill this heaven and earth before crashing towards Jian Wushuang like a tsunami. Jian Wushuang used his divine power immediately to stop the grey mist. He soon realized his divine power had been completely suppressed by the silver mist to a 10-meter radius square box around him. There were still signs of his divine power being pushed back. How is this possible? Jian Wushuang was shocked. There should not be anyone in this heaven and earth who possesses a stronger divine power than me. What is the grey power that she just used? Even though it is not as powerful as mine, it still completely suppressed my divine power. Suppression in terms of divine power. This was the first time Jian Wushuang had encountered this situation after he had broken through into the ultimate phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation. Poisonous dragon, Leng Rushue said softly. Instantly, the silver mist that filled heaven and earth started to gather and form a gigantic silver dragon. This dragon was tens of thousands of feet long and it covered the entire sky. It exhaled a cloud of silver mist before attacking Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang gripped the Blood Mountain sword in his hands tightly. He dashed. A sword light was seen within the grey mist. It was like the first light of day as it lit up the world. The sword light hit the grey dragon as it tore the dragon into half. The grey mist then saturated the air again. You simply suppressed my divine power. It does not affect my fighting power. Jian Wushuang looked at Leng Rushue coldly. If one poisonous dragon cannot hurt you, how about 10? Leng Rushue said with a low voice. Instantly, the grey mist started to twirl again as more similar grey dragons were formed. This time, there were 10 of these grey dragons. These 10 dragons brandished their claws as they attacked Jian Wushuang from all directions. Jian Wushuang was not afraid. His figure flashed again as he left eerie shadows in the air. Even though these poisonous dragons were extremely powerful, they traveled too slowly. Jian Wushuang dashed around the battlefield in a weird way before appearing in front of the grey dragons. He swung his Blood Mountain sword at it once again. 10 sword lights appeared and struck the poisonous dragons at the same time. The 10 grey poisonous dragons dissipated instantly. Your attacks are really stylish. However, they're useless against me. Jian Wushuang looked at Leng Rushue and said coldly. Is that the case? Do you really think that my poisonous dragons are so simple? Leng Rushue replied. Jian Wushuang knitted his eyebrows tightly. He had a bad feeling about what was going to happen. He then noticed the changes in his divine body. This is poison. He could clearly feel that a large amount of the grey mist entered his body through his pores. This grey mist had come about after the grey poisonous dragons dissipated. Jian Wushuang had been at the center of where all of the dragons had dissipated, hence the grey mist would come in contact with him. Under normal circumstances, the divine power around his body should have stopped the grey mist from entering his body. In reality, it had not. The grey mist was incredibly powerful. It ignored the protection from the divine power around Jian Wushuang's body before it started to corrode everything within Jian Wushuang easily. What a terrifying poison. It corrodes my divine power and my internal organs. It can even corrode my soul. Jian Wushuang turned pale. Chapter 2277 Golden Flame. Jian Wushuang had come into contact with poison before. There were many experts in the eternal chaotic world who excelled in using poison. There were many who had also excelled in using poison back in the ancient past. However, out of all of the poison Jian Wushuang knew, none was as terrifying as what he was experiencing. This type of poison could have killed any divine demons even back in the absolute beginning divine world without the restrictions of heaven and earth easily, much less a mere chaotic realm expert like Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang understood why Leng Rushue was able to use such a terrifying poison. After all, Leng Rushue had a unique constitution. Back in the green fire world when Leng Rushue had controlled her own body, she had possessed the icy bone poison which was a nightmare for any expert in the green fire world. Now that Leng Rushue was much more powerful than before, the poison she could use was much more terrifying. What Jian Wushuang did not know was that her unique constitution was Heaven's Mandate unique constitution. It was also called Heaven's Mandate narcotic constitution. This was an extremely destructive unique constitution. The reason it was so destructive was because of the poison the people who had this constitution could use. Leng Rushue was far too weak. The poison she controlled was nothing compared to that of other, more powerful experts. If she continued to grow, she could take trillions of lives with a single thought if she could fully control her constitution. At that point in time, One could die simply by being near her for a long time. The Heaven's Mandate unique constitution was this terrifying. However, it was impossible for this position to hurt Jian Wushuang even though it could kill divine demons easily. Jian Wushuang was in the ultimate phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation and had the perfect chaotic holy body. No poison, fire, or water could kill him. He was invincible. Initially, the grey poison within his body could move around smoothly. Within moments, it was stopped by a large amount of divine power from within Jian Wushuang's body. It soon cleared all of the poison within his body. In the air, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes again as though nothing had happened. Looks like the unique constitution of an inverse cultivator is much more powerful than I had imagined. You can clear my Heaven's Mandate poison so easily. Lung Rushue stared at Jian Wushuang with a hint of surprise in her eyes. It had never been her plan to kill or wound Jian Wushuang using Heaven's Mandate poison. If Heaven's Mandate poison cannot harm you, then try this. Lung Rushue said as a ray of unique light stirred in her grey iris. This light was grey and seemed magical. Soon, the grey light started to change and eventually turned into gold. It was extremely bright and shiny, like two burning golden balls of flame. Heaven's Mandate, golden flame, hum. A spark of the golden flame appeared in front of Lung Rushue. Initially, it was only a spark of golden flame. The instant it appeared, it was as though it was lit in the middle of a dry grassland. The small spark instantly lit the entire place on fire. Instantly, all of the grey mist turned into golden flames. The sea of fire surrounded Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was at the center of the sea of fire. He turned pale when he felt how high the temperature of the golden flame was. The golden flame is really terrifying. Jian Wushuang was sure the temperature of the golden flame was far higher than that of any of the flames he had seen before. Not only was its temperature high, its destructive power was also unprecedented. Most importantly, the golden flame could burn forever under the control of Lung Rushue. I never thought that, aside from the poison, she could control such a terrifying golden flame. Her unique constitution, Jian Wushuang clenched his jaws tightly together. He did not have much time to think. This was because the golden flame had burnt up the divine power that surrounded him and given him a safe space. The golden flame was not headed for him. Humph! Jian Wushuang grunted as waves of thick divine power erupted from his skin. Once the wave of divine power appeared, the golden flame burnt it into clear air before it continued to head for Jian Wushuang. With the protection of the divine power, Jian Wushuang's divine body was not harmed. He started dashing out of the sea of fire as fast as he could. Within moments, he was out of the sea of fire and had appeared in the air once again. The side of his mouth twitched as he checked himself for injury. I used 20% of my divine power just to prevent the golden flame from touching me on my way out of the sea of fire. Jian Wushuang was really shocked. After he reached the ultimate phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation, his divine power was extremely vast. It would be enough to fully restore his divine body at least 10 times. He had only used 10% of his divine power when head battled Bing Shan, fought the experts from the ancient past and restored his divine body once. Now, he had used 20% when all he had done was protect himself when he charged out of the sea of fire. How terrifying was the sea of golden flame? Luckily, I am an inverse cultivator. If it was any other expert, even a real divine demon, they would probably have been burnt to ashes, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Even Lung Rushue was shocked when he saw Jian Wushuang walk out of the sea of golden flame alive. She then shook her head and thought to herself, I have yet to perfect my control over the golden flame. I cannot redirect it. If not, I can direct the sea of golden flame in the direction of his escape. There is no way he will run out of the radius of the sea of golden flame. Even if he has the body of undying, he will still die. Even though Lung Rushue felt that it was a pity, there was nothing she could do. She had awakened her unique constitution not too long ago. She had learnt to cast the golden flame in an even shorter period of time. It was not easy for her to cast it, much less control it and direct it around. Looks like there is no way I can kill you. Lung Rushue stared at Jian Wushuang coldly. You cannot kill me, but I can kill you. killing intent was clearly seen in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Right when he was about to attack. Boom! Heaven and earth started shaking, and this shaking persisted. Everyone was surprised by this sudden change as they looked over at heaven's horizon. There, a complete and stable passageway had appeared. Chapter 2278 Dissension. It appeared, a complete passageway finally appeared. All of the experts from the ancient past who wanted to get into the passageway and get back into the absolute beginning divine world were elated. The passageway has completely opened. Looks like you are out of time, Leng Rushue stared at Jian Wushuang and said. So what if it had completely opened? All will be alright as long as you do not walk through the passageway, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Is that the case? Jian Wushuang, your understanding of this world is far too shallow. You are not to blame as you are always in this heaven and earth. You have yet to see what absolute beginning divine world has to offer. Even though I only saw that world through the opportunities that my master left, I am already much more well informed than you. Leng Rushue smiled coldly. Jian Wushuang, do you think this is all that my master is capable of? Hearing this, Jian Wushuang turned pale as he had a bad feeling of what was to come. At the next moment. Who is that? Someone exclaimed as the experts on the battlefield, including Jian Wushuang, looked over at heaven's horizon once again. At the edge of the dark mist, a blurry figure was walking out of the passageway. It was a lady who was over 2 meters tall. She walked out of the passageway and appeared in front of everyone. The black mist around her finally dissipated and everyone could clearly see what she looked like. She was extremely beautiful. It was as though she was a fairy from the fairy tales. Her looks were on par with Leng Ruxu's. Her temperament was the most attractive part of her. She was extremely cold, just like Leng Rushue. Aside from her coldness, she was very proud. This was the type of pride that only those who were at the highest level of their fighting power would have. She scanned the battlefield with her icy eyes. She did not care about even the extremely powerful and famous people back from the absolute beginning divine world like One Star Man, Bing Shan, Elder Shihua, and Saint Soul. To her, they were insignificant. She is. Many of the experts from the ancient past widened their eyes in shock as they looked at the lady in disbelief. Many of the experts gulped down air, not out of lust but because of their fear. Master of Holy Land, it is a master of Holy Land. The master of the Holy Land has come personally. Oh my God! These experts from the ancient past were stunned. The master of the Holy Land, the most powerful person in the absolute beginning divine world. Whatever they did, there would be rippling effects across the entire absolute beginning divine world. In the absolute beginning divine world, the numbers of Master of the Holy Land were limited and one could count their numbers with just the fingers on their 2 hands. This type of figure had come down to this heaven and earth personally. It is her. One Star Man widened his eyes as he stared at the lady. There was fear in his eyes. He knew who she was and her true identity. She was a true Master of Holy Land. As a Master of the Holy Land, one was on an equal level to heaven's will. Even though One Star Man was one step away from being one, their fighting powers were nothing alike. Only the leader of the 7 stars, Emperor 13, could hope to go against the Master of the Holy Land. The other 6 stars had to back off when they encountered her. No, there is no way a Master of the Holy Land can come to this heaven and earth personally. That is a consciousness embodiment, One Star Man said deeply. Indeed, an almighty Master of Holy Land would never come to this heaven and earth personally. This was because even if they came here, they would be placed under the restrictions of heaven and earth and would not be able to use their true fighting power. Under these circumstances, many things could go wrong. The Master of the Holy Land was completely invincible back in the absolute beginning divine world. Once one reached this level, they could do anything they wanted as it was almost impossible for them to die. However, there was a big chance that one would die here in this heaven and earth given how powerful the restrictions of heaven and earth were. No Master of the Holy Land would dare to mess around with their own lives. Hence, they would send in an consciousness embodiment in their place. However, even their consciousness embodiments were incredibly powerful. Greetings, Master of the Holy Land. Greetings, Lord. The experts from the ancient past greeted the lady respectfully. The beautiful woman ignored all of these people, including Bing Shan. She shifted her eyes and fixed her gaze on Leng Rushue. Master. Leng Rushue still had her white hair, grey irises, and a cold attitude. However, she immediately became more respectful when she spoke to the beautiful lady. Is that her master? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes as he studied the lady. He felt a pressure like never before. He had felt this pressure from Emperor 13. However, the pressure from this lady was slightly stronger. I am here to bring you over to the absolute beginning divine world. Let's go. The beautiful lady spoke coldly and firmly. It sounded as though she would not tolerate any disobedience. She was one of the most powerful people in the absolute beginning divine world for a very long time. Over the many eons, no one had dared to disobey her, as everything she said was an order, not a suggestion. This was the absolute power she had. Yes. Leng Rushue nodded her head and started to head towards the lady. Leng Rushue took a step back right when she was about to start walking. In the space less than 10 meters in front of her, a sword light that was strong enough to tear even heaven and earth apart sliced the space mercilessly. If she had taken that step out, she would definitely have been hit by that sword light. Huh! You still dare to stop me even in the presence of my master? I do not know if you are really stubborn, or really dumb. Leng Rushue squinted her eyes slightly as she looked over at Jian Wushuang. Evidently, that sword light had been created by Jian Wushuang to stop her. If you want to enter the passageway, you have to pass through me first, Jian Wushuang said coldly and firmly. How dare you? A cold yell exploded in this heaven and earth. Killing intent was clearly seen within the irises of the beautiful, tall lady, who stood beside the black mist. This killing intent turned into 2 flashes of lightning which attacked Jian Wushuang, threatening to turn him into ashes. Jian Wushuang turned around as he swung the Blood Mountain sword, which seemed as though it contained a storm, in rage. Sword Principal Shen Luo, blast rainstorm. Even when the Master of Holy Land was here personally, Jian Wushuang would not back down nor bow his head at all. Chapter 2279 Master of the Holy Land Boom. 2 terrifying bolts of lightning turned the spacetime into dust with a loud bang. The incredible sword light was also reduced to nothing. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang's body swayed before he dashed backwards. The tall, beautiful lady remained there. Even I am affected this much by the restrictions of heaven and earth, the beautiful lady muttered. A wave of destructive aura erupted from her and swept out in all directions. Instantly, it traveled trillions of feet. Within this area, heaven and earth trembled as the formation that covered the entire eternal chaotic world was also affected by this wave of aura. The Master of the Holy Land is really powerful. She can affect restrictions of heaven and earth with her own power. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly. Even though the restrictions of heaven and earth were very powerful in this world, it was not invincible. For example, the Blood Emperor had managed to affect the restrictions of heaven and earth with the formation he had come up with over the long time he was here. Then, he had sacrificed the lives of all the experts in the 3 Emperors' world to cast the formation which affected the restrictions of heaven and earth and enabled him to use the power of a divine demon. Blood Emperor required the help of the formation and the blood essence of countless experts to affect the restrictions. However, experts at the level of Emperor 13 did not need to pay any price or help. They could affect the formation with their own power to enable them to use the power of a half-step divine demon. Even though a beautiful lady was only a consciousness embodiment, she could do the same. Furthermore, the fighting power this beautiful lady was displaying was incredible. Even though she is weaker than me in power level, she can suppress me with a casual strike. This is a master of the Holy Land. Jian Wushuang looked dark. Under the restrictions of heaven and earth, I need to put in more effort to kill you. However, I can still do it, the beautiful lady said as she raised her fingers once again and pointed at Jian Wushuang. A wave of destructive power that made Jian Wushuang breathless erupted from her fingers. A humongous finger made up of entirely grey divine power was formed in the air. The grey divine power gave Jian Wushuang goosebumps. Poison. That is deadly poison. It is the same type of poison that Lung Rushua has, but it's much more lethal. Jian Wushuang turned pale. He finally understood why this master of the Holy Land would take Lung Rushua as a lineal disciple and pay so much attention to her. It was because this master of the Holy Land had the same unique constitution as Lung Rushua. Both of them had Heaven's Mandate unique constitution and could control Heaven's Mandate poison. The poison Lung Rushua can control can kill any ordinary divine demon. I can use my perfect chaotic holy body to counter it. However, the poison that the Master of the Holy Land controls, the poison that the Master of the Holy Land controlled was 10 times, or even 100 times more lethal, even though she was under the restrictions of heaven and earth. Jian Wushuang was sure that his perfect chaotic holy body could not take this poison as it was too lethal. When this finger made up of grey poison appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, a sword light appeared out of nowhere. This sword light had appeared far too suddenly. It sliced the humongous finger into two and the grey divine power started to seep out in all directions. It too was met with sword lights as they were extinguished instantly. The beautiful lady was caught off guard. She immediately looked towards a space to one side. A figure stood there silently. It is you. The beautiful lady's eyes turned extremely cold. Lord Emperor 13. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. That is right, the man who had sliced the poisonous finger into two was Emperor 13, the leader of 7 stars, the man who could go even against masters of the Holy Land. Emperor 13, you dare to show up in front of me, the beautiful lady roared in anger. When she saw Emperor 13, the beautiful lady erupted in anger as killing intent saturated her eyes. Why wouldn't I? Looks like your injuries have completely recovered, Syria. Hearing this, the beautiful lady became even angrier. Her name was Syria. However, not many people knew what she was really called due to her status as a master of the Holy Land. Even if there were people who knew, no one dared to call her by her name. However, Emperor 13 did not care at all. He called her by her name in front of everyone. As for the injury Emperor 13 was talking about, it was the greatest disgrace she had ever experienced since becoming a master of the Holy Land. Many years ago, she had fought Emperor 13. Even though she had had the absolute advantage in that battle, Emperor 13 had still managed to injure her with his crazy sword skills and leave a deep scar on her arm. She felt embarrassed as she had been injured by someone who was not at the level of the Master of the Holy Land yet. This was why she had always wanted to kill Emperor 13 badly. The main reason why she had helped out back in the great battle of the ancient past was because she had wanted to kill Emperor 13. However, it was almost impossible to kill someone at the power level of Emperor 13. Emperor 13. Thank you for appearing. I can finally wash away the shame from that sword wound, the beautiful woman said coldly. You also said that back in the great battle. What happened in the end? Emperor 13 replied in disdain. He then looked at Jian Wushuang and said, I will help you handle this woman right here. The rest is up to you. Thank you, Jian Wushuang said gratefully. Immediately after, Emperor 13 and the beautiful lady started their battle. The two most powerful people back in the absolute beginner divine world, one who was in the realm of Master of the Holy Land, and the other who had the fighting power at the level of the Master of the Holy Land even though his realm was lower. These two experts fought head-on under the restrictions of heaven and earth, at the power level of half-step divine demon realm. Even though both were under very powerful restrictions, their battle was still extremely destructive. Feeling the destructive power coming from these two experts, Jian Wushuang was shocked. However, his gaze became sharper than ever. He fixed his sharp gaze on Lung Rushua. Jian Wushuang whipped out a scroll out of thin air. The scroll fused into the space around him and disappeared with a wave. Chapter 2280. The area filled with black mist now, no one can disturb us anymore. Jian Wushuang looked at Lung Rushua coldly. Lung Rushua knitted her eyebrows before relaxing. She said indifferently, Do you really think that you can suppress me alone? Well, we won't know if I don't try, Jian Wushuang muttered before falling silent. In the air above, there had originally been a dark and vast space. Now, It had been replaced by an extremely vivid and beautiful picture scroll world. There were mountains, there was water. There were 9 extremely large and majestic provinces. Each of them looked extremely realistic. 9 province seal. The 5th seal. Jian Wushuang then formed various seals with his hands. From the picture scroll world, a majestic continent appeared with an incredible pressure. The 5th seal of the 9 province seal was the strongest seal that Jian Wushuang could cast given the amount of divine power he had. He could cast the 6th seal, but he had to use certain trump cards. Even though Jian Wushuang had only cast the 5th seal, he felt that it was sufficient as there was no way Leng Rushue could take its power. The terrifying but majestic province descended slowly. This province was so large that it completely covered Leng Rushue and the space around her. No matter how unique her martial art motion was, it would be impossible for her to use it under the pressure of the majestic province. "I am afraid that you cannot suppress me with just this level of power," Leng Rushue said with coldness in her eyes. "If this is not enough, how about now?" A ray of killing intent flashed across Jian Wushuang's eyes. There were 9 stars that hovered between Jian Wushuang's eyes. The overbearing bloodline power of an ancient god flowed within him. The 2 ancient god stars at the very top crumbled instantly. Ancient god secret skill, star destruction skill. Jian Wushuang destroyed 2 stars at once as his overall power level rose by a great amount. The power of the majestic province that was descending skyrocketed. Leng Rushue finally turned pale. "I am not an expert at exchanging blows using brute power. It will be difficult for me to withstand this attack. There is no other way. I have to use Golden Flame again." Leng Rushue made the decision immediately. Heaven's mandate, Golden Flame. Within Leng Ruxu's grey irises, a spark of golden light appeared once again. The light was still slightly grey and blurry initially. However, it burned like 2 golden fireballs within her eyes. A spark of a hot golden flame appeared in front of Leng Rushue. It then exploded and covered the entire space. When the majestic province came into contact with the golden flame, it started to burn at a crazy speed as the divine power that made up the province started to evaporate. At the same time, the sea of flame made up by the golden flame also headed for Jian Wushuang. This move again. Jian Wushuang's face turned dark. He knew how powerful this move was. He immediately channeled his divine power and left the area burning with the golden flames in the shortest time possible. "Sure enough, I have used another 20% of my divine power." Jian Wushuang frowned as he whipped out a 7-treasure divine elixir and drank it. With the help of the 7-treasure divine elixir, Jian Wushuang's divine power started to regenerate at an incredible speed. Before long, he had recovered half of his total divine power. Jian Wushuang looked over at Leng Rushue once again. Leng Rushue looked very miserable. She had only gained control of the golden flame recently. It was already very difficult for her to cast it once. This was the 2nd time she had cast it within a short period of time. This time, she had been severely injured by the powerful backlash of forcefully casting this skill. Fart. She spat out a mouth of blood which immediately dyed her veil crimson red. She did not fall to the ground. When Jian Wushuang dashed out of the sea of golden flame, she was already headed for the passageway using the martial art motion she mastered. "You will not escape." A flash of killing intent was seen in Jian Wushuang's eyes as he pointed towards the space Leng Rushue was in. Ancient god secret skill, moon-picking skill. Boom. Space-time shook. With his immense divine power and bloodline power, the space-time was completely sealed off before it started to collapse on Leng Rushue. What? Leng Rushue was shocked. She had mastered an eerie martial arts motion, but it was difficult for her to move when the space-time around her was sealed off by the secret skill. At the same time, a soft palm appeared out of nowhere. This palm felt as though it belonged to a mother as it headed for Leng Rushue in a slow and gentle manner. "Master!" Leng Rushue screamed for help. The beautiful lady was in the middle of an intense battle against Emperor 13. Even though she had seen this and wanted to help, she could not as she was too busy fighting Emperor 13, unable to pull away. "Get to the area covered in black mist," the beautiful lady said in a low voice. Lung Rushue focused her vision at the area covered in black mist. The passageway was where the heaven's horizon was, and where this heaven and earth's limit was. It was within the area where the black mist was. Even though she was still a distance away from the passageway, she was relatively close to the area covered in black mist. I am going to risk it. A flash of madness was seen on Lung Rukshu's face as the golden light lit up her eyes once again. The golden flame appeared again. This time, the area it covered was extremely small. It was barely large enough to cover the large hand. The large hand dissipated as the golden flame burnt it away. At the same time, the seal of the spacetime around her was gone. Even though Jen Wushuang was right on her tail, Lung Rushue created a small gap for her to escape using the golden flame. Whoosh! Lung Rushue turned into a shooting star as she escaped into the area filled with grey mist. Her face was extremely pale. Third time. The third time is my limit. If I were to cast the golden flame a fourth time, I would definitely die. Lung Rukshu's body trembled. However, she was still a distance away from the passageway. Jen Wushuang did not stop as he followed her into this area covered in black mist. Jen Wushuang realized something was different the moment he stepped foot into the area covered in black mist. This area is different from the outside world. The restrictions of heaven and earth are not as powerful here. Jen Wushuang's face turned slightly pale. With weaker restrictions of heaven and earth, the experts from the ancient past, including the beautiful woman, could use a greater portion of their power. This was not good news for Jen Wushuang. At the same time, he noticed two figures walking out of the passageway slowly. Chapter 2281 Insanity. There were two people who stepped out of the passageway. The first was a smiling bald man in a white cloak. He was bathed in sunlight as there was white lights that were sparkling around him. It gave people the impression that he was a gentleman. The other woman was in crimson cloak. She looked ordinary, but she had an incredibly cold aura. It was as though everyone had to worship her and she was out of reach. Jen Wushuang's irises constricted when he saw the two experts. He had seen these two people before. He had seen them in the ancient display inside the gigantic head. In the ancient display, the owner of the head, the bold man who could battle the heavens, the earth and all sentient beings, had been forced into a desperate situation by trillions of divine demons. There were 3 people in the lead, and 2 of them were these 2 figures who had appeared. These 2 led trillions of divine demons with another man. The other man was an unmatchable demon king. He rode a crimson dragon and penetrated the heart of the bold man with a spear. These 2 were definitely masters of the Holy Land. Syria. You really value this disciple of yours. Not only did you ask both of us to help you open this passageway, you also paid a huge price for both of our consciousness embodiments to descend upon this world. The bald man in the white cloak laughed heartily. Is this your precious disciple? White hair with grey irises. Ha ha. She has the same unique constitution as you, the woman in crimson clothes said casually. Even though both of them spoke normally, their voices were heard not only within the area covered by the black mist, but across the entire battlefield. The beautiful lady squinted her eyes and said with a deep voice, "Stop wasting time, save my disciple." Naturally. The bald man smiled. "Leave it to us," the woman in crimson clothes said confidently. They were masters of the Holy Land. They were absolutely confident in their own abilities. The bald man in white clothes and the lady in crimson clothes looked over at the space where Jen Wushuang and Lung Rushue were. Lung Rushue had just escaped into the area covered in black mist. She was trying her best to get close to the passageway with Jen Wushuang hot on her tail. He was closing in on her quickly. Lung Rushue could have been faster than Jen Wushuang given how eerie her martial art movement was. It should have been difficult for Jen Wushuang to catch up to her. However, after casting the golden flame 3 times, Lung Rushue was severely injured. She lost most of her fighting power. Of course her speed would be slower as well. However, Lung Rushue saw hope. She saw the 2 figures who appeared at the edge of the passageway. Without a doubt, her master had asked both of them to help her. "Stop." The bald man smiled as he said indifferently. He did not move at all. He only opened his mouth and told Jen Wushuang to stop. Right after he said these words, Jen Wushuang felt an unbelievable amount of power pressuring him. This power did not have any substance to it. It was neither aura nor pressure. It was purely to suppress one's will. It was pure willpower, yet it was incredible and absolute. Under this pressure, Jen Wushuang was tempted to kneel. The desire to stop flashed across his mind. Immediately, a ray of killing intent flashed across his irises. It is just will. How can it stop me? Jen Wushuang's face turned red as he roared. His stopped for a split second before continuing to dash towards Leng Rushue. This little one has such a strong will. The bald man was surprised. Having a strong will is one thing. More importantly, the restrictions of heaven and earth here are far too powerful. You can barely use your willpower. The woman in crimson clothes smiled. That is true. The bald man laughed silently before his eyes turned cold. No one should go against my will. Since this little one has gone against it, he shall die. Once the bald man finished speaking, a brilliant white light lit up the space around him. This light was extremely bright and warm. It lit both him and the area covered in black mist up. One could feel at peace simply by looking at him. However, Jen Wushuang's irises constricted when he was covered by the white light. He clearly saw a white spear appear in front of him, threatening to pierce through his divine body. This power, Jen Wushuang was shocked. He could feel that the power within this white spear was far stronger than that of a chaotic realm expert. It was probably near the peak power of a divine demon. Even though Leng Rukshu's master was also a master of the Holy Land, her attacks were not nearly as powerful. Of course, this didn't mean that the bald man was much more powerful. It was because the bald man was standing within the black mist. Here, the restrictions of heaven and earth were much weaker. The area covered in black mist was where the eternal chaotic world met the absolute beginning divine world. Here, the restrictions of heaven and earth were the weakest. Now that the passageway was open, the restrictions of heaven and earth were further weakened. This enabled the two masters of the Holy Land to be much more powerful within this area. Jen Wushuang was sure that the two masters of the Holy Land could at least use the power of a divine demon, maybe even more. The power that Jen Wushuang could use was also at the level of a divine demon, but he felt his power was far weaker than that of the bald man in white clothes. There was no way Jen Wushuang could beat him when both his power and techniques were far inferior. Jen Wushuang instantly felt that his life was in danger when he saw the white spear. I cannot be stopped by these two masters of the Holy Land. If I am, Jen Wushuang fixed his eyes on Leng Rushue, who was still trying her best to escape his chase. He was extremely close to Leng Rushue. He would be able to catch up to her and suppress her almost instantly, given that she had no fighting power left. If he was stopped by this spear, Leng Rushue could use the time to dash beside the two masters of the Holy Land. Jen Wushuang would not stand a chance against them. Jen Wushuang's eyes turned bloodshot when he thought of this. Madness was written all over his face. He made a headstrong decision. Instantly, star power started to boil within his body. Chapter 2282 Soul. Jen Wushuang cast his strongest trump card, Secret Skill of Star Palace. Once he had cast the third scripture of the secret skill of Star Palace, star power surrounded his body as his overall power skyrocketed by 1,000 times. His power indeed increased by 1,000 times. Of course, without the support of Emperor 13's blood essence, he could only use this power for a single attack. However, this single attack was more than sufficient for Jen Wushuang. Get lost! Jen Wushuang roared as he swung his sword fiercely. This sword formed a vast ocean of sword essence. Under the frenzied assault of the ocean of sword essence, the white light that lit up the area covered in black mist disappeared. The white spear that was headed for Jen Wushuang was also deflected. What? No. The bald man and the woman in crimson clothes turned pale. The bald man was especially shocked. He was a master of the Holy Land. Within the area covered with black mist, the restrictions of heaven and earth were much weaker and he could use the power of a divine demon. Under these circumstances, he attacked an expert in the chaotic realm. No matter how unbelievable an expert in chaotic realm might be, the bald man, though the expert, would be stopped easily. He had not taken Jian Wushuang seriously. He had never expected that Jian Wushuang could deflect his attack head-on. After deflecting the white spear, Jian Wushuang did not stop at all. He continued chasing Leng Ruxue as he appeared behind her almost instantly. Now it was impossible for even the two masters of the Holy Land to stop him. Damn it! Leng Ruxue turned pale. She could see that Jian Wushuang had made a majestic mountain using the sword in his hand. At the bottom of the mountain, there was a dark hole that had large amounts of secret restrictions. The mountain was headed for her. She had already cast Golden Flame thrice. With her current condition, there was no way she could do anything to resist Jian Wushuang. She was about to be completely suppressed. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang, look at this. Leng Ruxue turned around as a unique ball of light appeared out from her body. This ball of light appeared in front of her and she held it tightly in her hands. When Jian Wushuang saw the ball of light, his irises constricted. His actions stopped for a brief moment. He stared at that ball of light. He sensed a familiar aura that he had been dreaming of for a very long time. A soul was within the ball of light. Don't you want the soul of your wife? I shall give it to you, catch. Leng Ruxue roared as she threw the ball of light into the space at the side. At the same time, a grey energy burst forth from her other palm, heading for the ball of light, trying to destroy it and the soul of Leng Ruxue. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang turned pale. He forgot about suppressing Leng Ruxue as he dashed towards the ball of light, trying to catch it. The moment he caught the ball, Jian Wushuang's heart trembled slightly. He blocked the grey energy with his divine body. Jian Wushuang stood there looking at the ball of light in his hands, sensing the soul within it. It really was his wife's soul. Rushuang, I have finally found you. Jian Wushuang felt an excitement and joy like never before. It was a pity that Leng Ruxuang's soul was in deep slumber. She could not detect Jian Wushuang's presence and had no reaction at all. Jian Wushuang was not worried. As long as he had Leng Ruxuang's soul, he could find a way to wake her up from her slumber. It would not be difficult for him to find her another body. Under her veil, Leng Ruxu's face was extremely cold as she looked at Jian Wushuang, who was overjoyed. Unless absolutely necessary, she would never give Leng Ruxuang's soul up. After all, Leng Ruxue and her had originally been one. They were still connected in many ways and had yet to completely separate from one another. If Leng Ruxuang's soul were to die, or to leave her body, there would definitely be effects on her unique constitution and foundation. This was why after so many years, Leng Ruxue had kept Leng Ruxuang's soul safe from all harm. When she broke through to the level of an almighty, Leng Ruxuang's consciousness evolved into a soul. Leng Ruxue planned on returning to the absolute beginning divine world to ask her master for help to cut the connection between her and Leng Ruxuang. This way, removing her from her body would not have any negative effects on her anymore. But now, she had been forced by Jian Wushuang to break her connection with Leng Ruxuang's soul. If she did not do this, she might be suppressed by Jian Wushuang. If not, she would be at risk of being suppressed by Jian Wushuang. Once she had been suppressed by Jian Wushuang, her life and death would be controlled by Jian Wushuang. Do you think both of you will have a happy ending when you rescue her soul? I won't allow it, Leng Ruxue said coldly. She turned to the two masters of the Holy Land and said, Lords, please kill him. I would have done it even without you asking. The bald man wiped the smile off his own face. The woman in crimson clothes also looked at Jian Wushuang coldly. Jian Wushuang had almost managed to suppress Leng Ruxue due to their mistake. They felt ashamed as Jian Wushuang had managed to suppress someone whom the both of them, as masters of the Holy Land, wanted to protect. Jian Wushuang's actions angered both of the masters of the Holy Land. Young one, you are too cheeky. The bald man looked at Jian Wushuang before dashing forward. Jian Wushuang saw a flash of white light. Before he could react, the bald man appeared beside him. What kind of speed is this? Jian Wushuang was shocked. He knew that he achieved his goal by getting Leng Ruxuang's soul. He did not know if he could leave here safely. Chapter 2283 Annihilation Die, Young One. The bald man said coldly. He pointed his right index finger at Jian Wushuang. From the tips of his fingers, a ray of brilliant white light erupted and headed for Jian Wushuang's heart. Jian Wushuang could not react when the bald man was at such a close distance and the light was traveling at a terrifying speed. Fut! The white light pierced through his heart and destroyed his heart. Jian Wushuang could not even resist before his divine body started to crumble. Not too long after his divine body had crumbled, a large amount of divine power gathered as Jian Wushuang's divine body reformed at a space not too far away. After his divine body had reformed, he started dashing out of the area covered in black mist without any hesitation. Too powerful. 30,000 years ago, the Blood Emperor shook heaven and earth with the opposing blood formation which allowed him to have the power of a divine demon. The two masters of the Holy Land could use even greater amounts of power compared to the Blood Emperor. They must be at least 10 times stronger. Jian Wushuang was terrified. During the battle against the Blood Emperor, he had used the blood essence given to him by Emperor 13 and casted the secret skill of Star Palace for a long time. This had enabled his combat power to be 1,000 times more powerful, yet he barely been evenly matched. He had finally killed the Blood Emperor using the mountain river map and with the help of his master, Shen Yi. Now, there were two masters of the Holy Land who were 10 times more powerful than Blood Emperor. Jian Wushuang had no way of beating them. More importantly, he could not cast the secret skill of Star Palace like he had back then. He did not have Emperor 13's blood essence. Escape! Escape! Jian Wushuang was trying his best to escape. His eyes were fixed on the area outside where the dark mist didn't reach. He knew that both masters of the Holy Land would only have such an insane fighting power inside an area covered in dark mist. Once they had left the area covered by dark mist, their fighting power would be around the same as that of Emperor 13 and Lung Rukshu's master. Even though they would still be more powerful than Jian Wushuang at that power level, it would be too difficult to kill him then. This meant that Jian Wushuang would survive if he could escape to the area not covered in the black mist. The bald man knitted his eyebrows when he saw Jian Wushuang reform his body and continue to try and escape. He muttered to himself, "Is that the body of Undying?" The bald man did not chase after Jian Wushuang as he noticed that the woman in crimson clothes had disappeared. Jian Wushuang continued to escape and was already at the outermost area of the black mist. He was about to exit this area. Suddenly, "Little one, where are you rushing off to?" He heard a mocking voice. Jian Wushuang realized that the lady in crimson clothes was standing in front of him. This speed, Jian Wushuang shook his head. He thought that the speed the bald man had was already incredible. He could not even react when the bald man attacked him at that speed. Now, he realized that this woman was even faster than the bald man. Haha! A mere expert in the chaotic realm has the body of Undying and such an abundance of divine power. I am interested in you. How about this? I lack a male servant. I will soul control and bring you to the absolute beginning divine world and find out all of your secrets. The lady in crimson cloak smiled. Her smile seemed magical. The woman did not move, but a wave of terrifying soul power crashed towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang felt as though there was a vast ocean of soul power crashing towards him. It was too vast and overbearing. Jian Wushuang thought that his soul power was already very powerful after taking so many ice soul elixirs. Compared to this ocean of soul power, his soul power was nothing. This soul power rushed towards his sea of consciousness. You want to soul control me? Dream on. Jian Wushuang yelled. Power started rushing out from the 5-gem armor and the soul-swallowing pearl within his body as they tried to defend against the ocean of soul power. At the same time, Jian Wushuang formed many layers of defense using his soul power within his sea of consciousness. Boom! Under the impact of such a powerful wave, Jian Wushuang started to tremble before he spat out a mouth of blood. However, his eyes were still burning with determination. I failed. Then so be it. Since I cannot control you, just die. Rays of beautiful crimson light were emitted from the woman as they formed sharp crimson swords. They immediately descended upon Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang tried to deflect them using the Blood Mountain sword. However, these crimson swords avoided his blade easily before piercing his divine body. Countless crimson swords pierced numerous holes in Jian Wushuang's divine body. His body crumbled quickly. Just as Jian Wushuang was about to reform his divine body, the woman in crimson clothes stared at him with her iris. Immediately, waves of crimson divine power swept out and formed a vast ocean of red. This ocean of red divine power wrapped around the divine power left behind by Jian Wushuang as they tore it apart. Be annihilated. The woman in crimson clothes said softly as the ocean of red divine power started to hunt down what remaining divine power that Jian Wushuang left behind. This is bad. Even though Jian Wushuang's divine body had crumbled, he could still think clearly. He wanted to reform his body. He was shocked that the amount of divine power he had was shrinking under the effects of the ocean of red divine power. If this continued, all of his divine power would be destroyed. If that happened, he would definitely die. Is this the end? Jian Wushuang muttered to himself, unwilling to resign himself to his fate. Of course he was unwilling to be resigned to this fate. Since the day he started cultivating, he had broken through countless barriers and gone through countless hardships to get to where he was today. Now, he had finally got back his wife's soul. Before he could take it out safely to awaken her, he was going to die. They would not have a proper reunion. How could he be willing to resign himself to his fate? No matter what he was feeling, there was nothing he could do as his divine body had already crumbled and he could not even reassemble it. Chapter 2284. Reincarnation passage. Is Jian Wushuang finally going to die? Lung Rushue was pale and her aura was extremely weak. She watched what was happening extremely coldly. An expert in the chaotic realm who has the body of undying is indeed unique. However, having the body of undying does not mean one cannot be killed. Back in the absolute beginning divine world, there were many undying saints who had the body of undying who died. During the battle against 7-star Black Sect alone, many undying saints passed on. The bald man smiled lightly. Indeed, just like this bald man had said, having the body of undying did not mean that one would never die. Within the absolute beginning divine world, there were many ways to kill an undying saint. Out of the many, there were 3 very popular ways. The first way, when there is a great difference in power level and divine power, one could destroy the other's divine body and cover it up using their own divine power to annihilate them. The second way, trap the person you want to kill and destroy his divine body and force him to reform his divine body over and over again. When he runs out of divine power, he'll be dead. As for the third and most simple way, use a soul attack. Body of undying only meant the divine body could be reformed. It did not mean that their soul power could be. If one's soul died, the body of undying could not help them. The method the woman in crimson clothes used to try and kill Jian Wushuang was the first method. She was a master of the Holy Land. The power she could use within this area covered in black mist was the peak of divine demons. On the other hand, the power that Jian Wushuang could use was that of the weakest divine demon. The gap in divine power was extremely big. Furthermore, given the amount of methods she had as a master of the Holy Land she could annihilate Jian Wushuang easily. No matter if it was the woman in crimson clothes, the bald man or Lung Rushue, they thought that Jian Wushuang was definitely dead in this situation. In reality, that was true. Even Jian Wushuang thought that he was dead meat. Just then, an abnormality occurred. The ocean of red divine power annihilated everything there was, including Jian Wushuang's divine body and divine power. Even the treasure that Jian Wushuang had on him was annihilated. Only the 5-gem armor and the Blood Mountain sword survived the annihilation. Jian Wushuang's Chen Kuan ring could not withstand the power and broke apart. Boom! His Chen Kuan ring broke apart as all of the treasures within his ring spilled out into the open. These were treasures obtained from all of the experts that Jian Wushuang killed. There were numerous treasures. If they had appeared in the eternal chaotic world, countless experts would have died to have them. However, to a master of the Holy Land, these were trash. The woman in crimson clothes could not be bothered by it and allowed the ocean of red divine power to annihilate these treasures as well. Countless treasures turned into dust. What she did not know was that there was a unique treasure within his Chen Kuan ring. This treasure was the reincarnation pearl, given to him by one starman 3,900 years ago. Reincarnation pearl contained a miniature reincarnation within it. It was extremely beneficial for Jian Wushuang to meditate to understand reincarnation rules of order. Jian Wushuang used this pearl to greatly deepen his understanding of reincarnation. He had even created an extremely powerful sword skill called samsara. Jian Wushuang never doubted the purpose of this pearl. He thought it could only be used to help him understand reincarnation rules of order. Under the destructive power of the woman's ocean of red divine power, the reincarnation pearl broke. A unique energy swept forth. This energy was purely reincarnation rules of order. A miniature reincarnation had originally been contained within the reincarnation pearl. Now, it had appeared in this heaven and earth. Once it appeared, it stirred the surrounding power of heaven and earth as the miniature reincarnation soon enlarged into a complete reincarnation passage. Yes, a complete reincarnation passage had been formed. It was completely different from the passageway that the masters of the Holy Land had opened. The passageway they opened led to absolute beginning divine world. This reincarnation passage led to samsara. Reincarnation passage? What? Why would a reincarnation passage appear here? The faces of the woman in crimson clothes and the bald man turned dark. This was completely beyond their expectations. When the reincarnation passage was finally complete. Is it finally time? A deep and magical voice was heard. When this voice echoed out, everyone stopped and looked. No matter if it was the woman in crimson clothes, the bald man, Leng Ruxue, Leng Ruxu's master, Emperor 13, One Star Man, Bing Shan, Emperor Bai, Elder Shihua and Saint Sol, all of them stopped what they were doing and looked over. They were searching for the source of the voice. Even in the space far away, the great emperors from the eternal chaotic world looked over. There, right below the beautiful picture scroll world, a blurry figure appeared. It was a well-built man in white clothes. He looked gentle and smiled lightly. His smile made people feel at peace. He stood there and radiated no aura at all. It was as though he was of air. However, once these experts looked at him, they could not take their vision off him anymore. It is him. The great emperors from the eternal chaotic world managed to recognize this man immediately. During the final battle against the three emperors' world, it had been this man who had appeared at the final, critical moment and helped Jian Wushuang kill Blood Emperor. They all knew that this mysterious man was Jian Wushuang's master. He is here. It is finally starting. When Emperor 13 and One Star Man saw who it was, they were overjoyed. Even Emperor 13, who was usually cold and quiet, got extremely emotional. It was as though his eyes were shooting rays of excitement. Chapter 2285 Spacetime Reversal. In contrast to Emperor 13 and One Star Man, the beautiful woman, the bald man and the woman in crimson clothes stared right at the man. All three of them were enraged and in disbelief. "Old man, it is you." The beautiful woman roared with shock in her eyes. There was also a hint of fear in her eyes. Yes, fear. As a master of the Holy Land, she was already on an equal level to heaven's will. By rights, there should be nothing in this world that she would fear. However, Xian Yi was an anomaly. Damn it. You should already be dead. How are you in this world? Roared the woman in crimson clothes. Yes. He is dead. This is probably a consciousness incarnation. If I am not wrong, he has been scheming in this heaven and earth for a long time. This passageway should also be part of his plan, the bald man said. You are smart. I indeed have died. Even though my divine body was destroyed, my will was not. As he spoke, the aura that Xian Yi had completely changed. He was originally a gentle, ordinary man who had a warm smile. Instantly, he turned into the most powerful man in the world. He stood there coldly. It was as though he was a mountain of ice. His eyes seemed so deep it was as though they contained trillions of stars. There was a will within his eyes that made the heaven, the earth and all sentient beings bow down to him. No one could compare to him, even masters of the Holy Land. It felt like he could take on the heavens, fight the earth and dominate all sentient beings. Even heaven and earth would submit to him. If Jian Wushuang had still been awake and seen Xian Yi, he would have been shocked. The aura that Xian Yi had now was the exact same as the bold man Jian Wushuang had seen in the ancient display within the gigantic head. The bold man who could battle the heavens, fight the earth and dominate all sentient beings. Even heavens will backed off when facing him. That's right. Xian Yi was the bold man. He was the owner of the gigantic head around the green fire world. He was the protagonist of the great battle of the ancient past eons ago. In the space around heaven's horizon, within the area covered in grey mist, a passageway and a reincarnation passage had opened. The entire heaven and earth fell silent. All of the experts present widened their eyes and stared at Xian Yi. Countless experts felt compelled to bow down to Xian Yi even though it was just a consciousness incarnation. A consciousness incarnation was different from a consciousness embodiment. A consciousness embodiment had a portion of the person's fighting spirit. The beautiful woman and the other two masters of the Holy Land sent their consciousness embodiments here. On the other hand, a consciousness incarnation was mere will. Under normal circumstances, it would not possess any power at all. Even so, countless experts felt compelled to worship Xian Yi's consciousness incarnation, and the three masters of the Holy Land shuddered in fear. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two figures appeared beside Xian Yi. They were Emperor 13 and One-Star Man. After so many years of hard work, we have finally reached where we are today, Emperor 13 said coldly. Even so, one could clearly see the excitement in his eyes. Yes, I had forgotten how long we have planned and prepared for this day. Luckily, everything is going as planned. There have not been any major screw-ups. Of course, I have to thank both of you for this, Xian Yi said with a deep voice. Both of us know what we should be doing. As long as the plan can come to fruition, our sacrifices will be worth it, no matter what we have to do. However, can we actually realize the plan? Emperor 13 knitted his eyebrows and said, I have no idea. However, this is our last chance. Xian Yi said. Emperor 13 and One-Star Man fell silent. Just like Xian Yi said, this was indeed their last chance. It was the last hope for the 7-star Black Sect and this heaven and earth. Xian Yi stopped talking. The picture scroll world that was fused into heaven and earth turned back into the small picture scroll world and appeared in his hand. He then looked at the area covered in black mist where Jian Wushuang died. There was only a large reincarnation passage there. No figures nor auras could be felt. All of Jian Wushuang's divine power had been annihilated under the ocean of red divine power. Jian Wushuang died. He had indeed died. Everyone saw it unfold before their very eyes. Xian Yi also knew that Jian Wushuang had died. He started to radiate a unique energy. Xian Yi pointed at where Jian Wushuang was with his right index finger. The unique energy instantly filled the entire space. Space-time reversal. Xian Yi said softly. Instantly, changes started to occur to the space-time in that area. The entire space-time, apart from the reincarnation passage, started to reverse. Within moments, the space-time showed the moment that Jian Wushuang was annihilated by the ocean of red divine power. At this moment, a ray of excitement flashed through Xian Yi's eyes. Freeze. Two rays of light glowed in the reversed space-time. The two rays of light were two souls. One of them belonged to Jian Wushuang while the other belonged to Leng Ruxue. Come here. Xian Yi waved his hands as the two souls flew into Xian Yi's hand. The entire process occurred within moments. The three masters of the Holy Land watched the entire process unfold before their eyes, yet they could not do anything to stop Xian Yi. Even if they wanted to, they could not. Space-time reversal was such an incredible technique that even they would have needed certain conditions to have pulled it off back in the absolute beginning divine world when they were at their primes. There was no way they could pull it off or cast this technique in this heaven and earth with the presence of the restrictions of heaven and earth. If they tried to stop Xian Yi by force, their consciousness embodiments would crumble instantly. Hence, all they could do was watch Xian Yi cast space-time reversal to reform Jian Wushuang and Leng Ruxue's souls. Chapter 2286 Awaken Part 1 Cast Spacetime Reversal to revive that little one? The beautiful lady stared at Xian Yi and said, "It looks like your consciousness incarnation cannot completely revive him. You can only revive his soul. I am curious, what are you trying to achieve?" The three masters of Holy Land could not guess the purpose behind Xian Yi's actions. Wait, in your current condition, it is not easy to cast spacetime reversal. After you cast it, your consciousness incarnation will disappear immediately. Even so, you still chose to revive this little one. Before this, you also opened a reincarnation passage. Are you trying to send this little one's soul into samsara? The bald man turned pale. Send him into samsara? The beautiful lady and the woman in crimson clothes were stunned. Indeed, you are the smartest among the few masters of the Holy Land. Xian Yi smiled coldly before he fell silent. He continued after a few moments, "I have to thank all three of you. If the three of you had not paid a hefty price to open the passageway, it would not have been possible for this reincarnation passage to appear as well." Xian Yi spoke the truth. The reason why the reincarnation passage was able to appear was all thanks to the three masters of the Holy Land. You planned all of this from the start. You even planned for us to open the passageway so that you could open the reincarnation passage? Why are you doing this? The beautiful lady said as she shook her head. She clenched her teeth tightly as she was utterly surprised. Even though that little one is talented, what exactly is it about him that would make you be willing to pay such a hefty price and plan over all these eons just to send him into samsara? The beautiful lady and the other two masters of the Holy Land were confused. What was the point of sending an expert in the chaotic realm into samsara? Was he hoping that this little one could become one of the strongest men in the absolute beginning divine world, or even save this heaven and earth? Was that possible? Haha. You guys will never guess. Xian Yi smiled and did not elaborate at all. Humph. We do not need to guess what you are planning. However, I know that no matter what you want to do, the three of us will give our all to stop you. You want to send him into samsara? We will stop him outside of the reincarnation passage and destroy his soul once again. I want to see if you can still cast spacetime reversal again in that condition, the beautiful lady said coldly. Do you think the three of you can stop me? Xian Yi said coldly in a condescending tone. We shall see, the bald man spoke. The three masters of the Holy Land were prepared to stop Xian Yi. Even though they were mere consciousness embodiments, Xian Yi had it worse. He was only a consciousness incarnation. He should not have had any fighting power at all. Only Emperor 13 was near the same power level as them. It was almost impossible for him to send Jian Wushuang's soul into the incarnation passage. When Xian Yi saw this, he fell silent. He then shook his head. It is useless. You underestimated me. I have been planning for this date for eons. How can I not have a perfect plan thought out? The three masters of the Holy Land turned pale. All of a sudden, Xian Yi looked up and said with a majestic voice, "People of the Seven-Star Black Sect, awaken." This majestic voice was not very loud. However, it fused into the restrictive formation within this heaven and earth. His voice could be heard across the entire eternal chaotic world. It was strange as the ordinary people and countless cultivators who were considerably weak could not hear this voice at all. Even the extremely powerful people like great emperors or almighties who were close to the realm of great emperors could barely hear it. His voice was transmitted to every single corner of the eternal chaotic world, including ancient mystery land and the respective ancient battlefields. Instantly, the ancient battlefields started to shake. The most important battles of the Great Battle of the ancient past had taken place around the ancient battlefield around the Green Fire world. Ever since this ancient battlefield had been found, many almighties began to go there and explore all year round. After all these years, countless opportunities and treasures had been found. However, no one had found the true secrets hiding beneath this ancient battlefield. At the center of the battlefield was a unique place. It was a gigantic volcano. This volcano stretched across numerous mountains. At the center of the battlefield, there was a sea of fire. The flames within this sea of fire were extremely terrifying. Many almighties ventured there and wanted to go deeper into the sea of fire to explore. However, they could only step foot into the outermost area of his sea of fire before they would be forced out. They had no way in. The outermost flame could easily burn any expert in the chaotic realm into ash. Even great emperors could not take the heat. After all these years, no one knew what was inside the sea of fire. No one dared or had the ability to explore. Just then, people of the 7-star Black Sect, awaken. The majestic voice was heard there through the restrictive formation. Instantly, the sea of fire that lit up the mountains started to weaken at an incredible speed. The sea of fire started to weaken and disappear. All that was left was the earth, glowing amber. At the center of this place, the center of the sea of fire, stood a figure 3 meters tall. He was wearing crimson armor. His helmet, boots, and even his skin were crimson red. He radiated no aura at all. It was as though this 3-meter-tall figure was like a battle puppet. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. The moment his eyes opened, a blazing flame was lit and started to burn within his eyes. It was as though he could burn everything with a single thought. This crimson-red figure raised his head and looked into the sky above. There, heaven and earth stirred as a huge space tunnel was formed. The crimson-red figure took a step and disappeared instantly inside the tunnel. Chapter 2287 Awaken Part 2 Ever since the First Era, countless experts had ventured into the ancient mystery land. Over time, most of the opportunities and treasures had been found. After the ancient battlefield around the Green Fire world was found, most of the experts chose to go there to explore. The ancient mystery land had started to become quiet. At a humble corner within the ancient mystery land was a barren hill. This hill was extremely large. However, there was no life on this hill at all. It was a completely barren hill. Over the years, many experts had passed it, but they had never noticed it. Even though there were some who had noticed it, stayed and searched the place, nothing was ever found. It was a completely normal, barren hill. That is, until Xian Yi's voice was heard there through the restrictive formation. The barren hill started to change. Large amounts of rocks collapsed rapidly. It was as though the barren hill was stripped of its outer clothes before its true features were seen. It was not a hill, it was a human. A giant who was incredibly big. The giant sat there cross-legged. The hill had been formed because he had not moved for trillions of years. At the next instant, the giant opened his eyes. His irises radiated fierceness, just like those of a savage beast. He then stood up and used his hands to tear the air above him. Under his force, heaven and earth was torn apart as a giant space tunnel big enough to fit him inside appeared. The giant entered the space tunnel without any hesitation. 8th layer. At the bottom of a river found within the dark region, there was a hidden standalone space. The giant crystal palace stood quietly above the back of Long Qi. A giant coffin floated at the center of the crystal palace. A man lay peacefully within the coffin. This man with black hair was over 5 meters tall. He wore a long golden cloak. He had a gentle look. He was so handsome that he seemed bewitching. People of the 7-star Black Sect, awaken. Xian Yi's majestic voice was heard. At that instant, the handsome man sleeping peacefully within the coffin opened his eyes. He had deep, shiny eyes. They looked like sparkling gems. Crack, crack. Cracks started to form on his coffin before it finally crumbled. The beautiful man landed on the ground softly. Whoosh. A figure appeared so fast he seemed to have teleported. He appeared beside the handsome man. This figure was a strange old man who had a long, golden tail. This old man was Long Qi. At this moment, his eyes were burning with excitement and fanaticism as he looked at the beautiful man with black hair. "Master, you are finally awake," Long Qi said, trembling. "Yes." The handsome man with black hair nodded his head before he commanded, "Long Qi, follow me." The handsome man waved as a gigantic space tunnel appeared. The handsome man and Long Qi disappeared into the tunnel. Similar events were happening throughout the eternal chaotic world, one after another. Heaven's horizon, in front of the passageway and the reincarnation passage. Xian Yi stood there calmly, holding 2 souls in his hands. Even when he was standing against 3 masters of the Holy Land, Xian Yi was calm and composed. He seemed absolutely confident. The 3 masters of the Holy Land knitted their eyebrows tightly. They knew that Xian Yi has always been unpredictable. He had been this way back when he was alive, and even as a consciousness incarnation after death. Right when everyone was wondering what would happen, boom! A giant crack appeared in heaven and earth. A crimson figure stepped out from within the crack. He wore crimson red armor, helmet, and boots. Even his skin was crimson red. The moment he appeared, an unprecedented wave of scorching heat swept out in all directions and shrouded the entire battlefield. All experts present felt as though they were in the middle of a sea of fire. It was not any ordinary sea of fire. To them, the 3-meter-tall man in crimson armor was not a cultivator, but a flame that could burn everything in this world. When he appeared, he drew the attention of every single expert there. That man, Bing Shan, who was standing behind the masters of the Holy Land, was shocked. It's him. One of the 7 stars of the 7-star Black Sect, Fire God Zhu Yuan. Bing Shan roared in a low voice. One of the 7 stars? The 3 masters of the Holy Land frowned. When the 7-star Black Sect had been around, the 7 stars had been 7 top-tier experts who were all extremely well known throughout the absolute beginning divine world. The most powerful of them all was Emperor 13, who could go even against masters of the Holy Land. Even though the other 6 were not as powerful as Emperor 13, they were of similar power levels. In this heaven and earth, under the powerful restrictions of heaven and earth, an expert with the fighting power of that of one of the 7 stars was still a threat to the 3 masters of the Holy Land. To make matters worse, the appearance of Fire God Zhu Yuan was only the beginning. The space was soon torn apart again. A giant who was hundreds of feet tall walked out of the torn space-time. This giant was extremely fierce, just like a savage beast. Xiongju, one of the 7 stars. Bing Shan cried out once again. The space was repeatedly torn apart and figures walked out of their own space tunnels. Within moments, 8 people appeared on the battlefield. These 8 people each radiated an overbearing aura. Oh my! Out of the most well-known 7 stars from the 7-star Black Sect, 3 of them have appeared. Including the most powerful Emperor 13, a total of 4 of them are gathering here. The remaining 5 are Divine Punisher Elders from the 7-star Black Sect. Many of the experts from the ancient past trembled in fear. Even the 3 masters of the Holy Land looked grim. They know exactly how powerful the 7 stars from the 7-star Black Sect were. They were only inferior to an expert in the realm of Master of the Holy Land. As for Divine Punisher Elders, back in its prime, the 7-star Black Sect had had a Divine Punishment Palace. Within the Divine Punishment Palace, there had been a total of 10 Divine Punishment Elders. All of these Divine Punishment Elders were top-tier experts. Even though they were weaker than the 7 stars, their fighting power was not too far off. 1-star man was one of the Divine Punishment Elders. During the battle of the ancient past, no matter if it was the 7 stars or these Divine Punishment Elders, they were the most powerful people from the 7-star Black Sect. Now, 8 of the most powerful people from the 7-star Black Sect had gathered. Chapter 2288 Help me, are these the only people from the 7-star Black Sect who managed to awaken? Emperor 13 looked at the 8 people indifferently. Too many experts died during the great battle of the ancient past. Even Divine Punishment Elders and the 7 stars. Not many people survived. All of these experts went into slumber over the eons. Many died in their sleep, while others found it difficult to awaken. There were only a few people who heard Xian Yi, awakened and rushed over. There is one more. He should be here soon, Xian Yi said. As he finished speaking, another gigantic crack appeared in the dark space in front of him. The crack in spacetime was much bigger than the 8 before it. The power was even more terrifying. Under the gaze of all of the experts present, a gigantic thing appeared from the crack. It was trillions of feet long and its body was covered in golden scales. It had a gigantic dragon head. Dragon turtle. It was a gigantic golden dragon turtle. If Jian Wushuang was there, he would definitely have recognized it. This golden dragon turtle that was trillions of feet long was Long Chi, who he had met in the 8th lair. While everyone was amazed about its size when Long Chi appeared on this battlefield, they also noticed a handsome man who was stood on Long Chi's back. When the divine punishment elders saw the man, their faces were painted with respect. As for the 3 masters of the Holy Land and Bing Shan, they were in disbelief. Xian Yang. The 3 masters of the Holy Land stared right at the man who had just appeared solemnly. Divine Punishment Palace Master. It is the Divine Punishment Palace Master from the 7-star Black Sect. Oh my God! It's him! This is a real master of the Holy Land. Reportedly, he is of equal standing with the 7-star sect master. He is alive. The experts from the ancient past trembled in fear when they recognized the handsome man. The 7-star Black Sect was the most powerful overlord in the absolute beginning divine world. Even the 3 big holy lands could not match him. There were numerous top-tier experts within the 7-star Black Sect. Anyone part of the 7 stars or the Divine Punishment Palace could run amok within the absolute beginning divine world without worry. They had 2 masters of the Holy Land. The first man was the sect master of the 7-star Black Sect. He was an incredibly old and powerful man. The second was the palace master of the Divine Punishment Palace, Xian Yang. These 2 were in the realm of master of the Holy Land. There were people like Emperor 13 who had the fighting power of a master of the Holy Land, but his realm was not there yet. As for Xian Yi, he was a special case. He was so special and unique that no one knew what realm he was truly in. No one knew if he was part of the 7-star Black Sect. Back in the ancient past, when the 7-star Black Sect had been at its prime, Divine Punishment Palace Master Xian Yang had been there. Now Xian Yang had awakened and stood before everyone on top of the golden dragon turtle. Many people held their breaths. Greetings, Palace Master. Greetings, Divine Punishment Palace Master. The experts from the 7-star Black Sect who were present, such as the Divine Punishment Elders and the experts who were part of the 7 stars, greeted him. Even the leader of the 7 stars, Emperor 13, greeted him with respect. The beautiful man who stood on top of the golden dragon turtle looked down and scanned the crowd. His eyes looked as though they contained trillions of stars. He nodded his head at the Divine Punishment Elders and the 7 stars. Soon, he locked his vision on one man. The man who he locked his vision onto was Xian Yi. Xian Yi. The handsome man with black hair looked at Xian Yi coldly, rage burning in his eyes. Anger. Xian Yang was extremely furious. Xian Yi was the reason why he was so furious. Xian Yang, it has been a long time. Xian Yi smiled lightly and gently. The overbearing aura Xian Yi had had was gone. It was the same gentleness he had when he spoke to Jian Wushuang. You dare to appear in front of me? You have the guts to awaken me. Xian Yang clenched his fists. It was as though he was about to explode in rage. The experts present felt odd when they saw this scene. They were curious, wasn't Xian Yi part of the 7-star Black Sect? Then why did the Divine Punishment Palace Master Xian Yang look like he hated him so much and seem as though he was about to kill him? Shouldn't they be on the same side? The 3 masters of the Holy Land watched everything unfold coldly. The 3 masters of the Holy Land knew the reason behind the great battle. They understood why Xian Yang would be enraged and seemed to hate Xian Yi so much when he saw him. Xian Yang, I know you still blame me for that great battle. You created the 7-star Black Sect with Xian Yu over many eons and through great effort. You made this sect become the overlord of the absolute beginning divine world. However, the 7-star Black Sect took an unprecedented and disastrous hit because of me. I understand that you are angry. However, no matter how much you hate me or complain about me, it has already happened. I am trying to fix everything. Hence, he stopped before he looked into Xian Yang's eyes and said, the reason why I woke you from your sleep is because I need the help of you and every other expert here to send this little one into samsara. Please help me. Xian Yi then bowed down to Xian Yang and the experts from the 7-star Black Sect. After he bowed down, he remained in that posture. In front of Xian Yi, Xian Yang and the other 8 top-tier experts from the 7-star Black Sect knitted their eyebrows tightly and fell silent. They knew who Xian Yi was and how incredible his techniques and fighting powers were. Without a doubt, he was an extraordinary expert. He could battle the heavens, the earth, and all sentient beings. He had never bowed down to or begged anyone before. Today, however, he had bowed down to them in front of numerous experts from the ancient past and requested their help. They have never thought that Xian Yi could put down his pride. Even Shen Yang was caught by surprise. Chapter 2289 Escort to Samsara. The earth fell quiet. Dead quiet. The pinnacle experts of the 7-star Black Sect were all looking at Shen Yang on the golden dragon turtle. Shen Yang pondered for a long time before finally saying, "Shen Yi, I'll trust you one last time." "Thank you." Shen Yi heaved a sigh of relief, and slowly stood up. Shen Yang on the golden dragon turtle shifted his gaze towards the 3 masters of Holy Land. "You 3 can scram now." Shen Yang's cold cry reverberated across the lands. Insolence! The 2-meter-tall beauty, the white-robed bald man, and the crimson-robed woman were instantly furious. Scram! Simple words were enough to display how much he looked down on them. When had the 3 masters of Holy Land ever been looked down upon? "Shen Yang, you think things are still the same?" the white-robed bald man asked coldly. "You were stronger than us in the beginning, but not by a lot. So many years have passed since, and you were only sleeping, whereas the 3 of us have improved immensely. Under these conditions, you dare ask us to scram," the crimson-robed woman said as well. "If you all don't scram, I'll simply destroy the consciousness embodiment of yours." Shen Yang was determined. "Long Qi, let's go." An angry roar was made by the golden dragon turtle. Long Qi was only but a mount under Shen Yang. His power was enough to go against a divine Punisher elder. Its large body pounced with great might towards the 3 masters of Holy Land. The elite experts of the 7-star Black Sect followed right behind Shen Yang. "Go as well," Shen Yi said. "Understood." Emperor 13 and 1-star man nodded. The 2 of them moved out at once. War broke out. The 3 masters of Holy Land looked unsightly upon realizing what was coming for them. They may have been highly reputable masters of Holy Land, but they were going against the 7-star Black Sect experts, 2 of them with Master of Holy Land fighting powers, the rest close to that. If it had been at their pinnacle period, they would not have feared them at all, but under the restrictions, they were still stronger, but not by much. Their fighting power had decreased immensely. Hong! 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 An earth-shattering force exploded upon impact from both sides, leaving the eternal chaotic world great emperors dumbfounded. To those great emperors, the chaotic divine demon ancient era experts were already extremely terrifying, but now they were nothing against those elite experts. Upon contact, the 3 masters of Holy Land were immediately put at a disadvantage and suppressed. Under those circumstances, Shen Yi made his move. He gradually stepped out towards the reincarnation passage. The Master of Holy Land trio sensed Shen Yi making his move, but had no way to intervene with the 7-star Black Sect experts in the way. There was no way they could get help from absolute beginning divine world experts either. They had already paid too high a price for their consciousness embodiments to come down. If they sent experts over, they would have to sacrifice their own lives. That obviously would not happen. They could stare at Shen Yi approaching the reincarnation passage. Shen Yi opened his palm and revealed 2 intact souls floating, but neither awakened. Shen Yi stared at Zhen Wushuang's soul peacefully and stretched out his index finger, allowing for boundless information to enter Zhen Wushuang's soul. Shen Yi smiled and tossed his hand out. "Go, little guy." With Shen Yi's guidance, Zhen Wushuang's soul made its way towards the reincarnation passage and disappeared. He threw the mountain river map and Blood Mountain sword along as well. Afterwards, Shen Yi looked at Lung Rushwang's soul. "Might as well send the other. I hope you both can find each other on the other side," Shen Yi said as he tossed Lung Rushwang's soul into the reincarnation passage as well. In the blink of an eye, both souls entered the reincarnation passage. Shen Yi finally revealed a relieved smile. The reincarnation passage began to slowly dissipate. Within a moment, the large reincarnation passage had disappeared as well. "Did we do it?" Emperor 13, One-Star Man and the others were overjoyed. The Master of Holy Land Trio's faces, on the other hand, turned extremely ugly. We let him succeed. What was the reason behind Xian Yi doing all of this, sacrificing so much just to send him into the tunnel? The 2-meter-tall beauty asked. Who knows, but the kid has secrets. It's a pity we did not block it, the white-robed bald man said. Forget it, there is no point staying here anymore, let's go, the crimson-robed woman said. The Master of Holy Land Trio reached an agreement. Without hesitation, the 3 consciousness embodiments went straight for the link passage and left. Xian Yang, Emperor 13 and the rest did not stop Bing Shan, Leng Rushue and the others from leaving either. As the ancient era experts left, the link passage disappeared. The peace at Heaven's Horizon was restored. In the dark void in front of the Heaven's Horizon, the 7-star Black Sect experts gathered in front of Xian Yi. Xian Yi's figure was gradually turning transparent. After so many years, your will is finally collapsing. Emperor 13 asked Xian Yi calmly. Xian Yi smiled. He knew his condition. He had died a long time ago, back at that ancient battlefield. Only his willpower was left. His willpower had survived for so many years, and after completing his purpose, he was now finally collapsing. The super-existence that had stirred heavens and multiple worlds was about to meet its end. Chapter 2290 Legend Xian Yi. The black-haired man on the golden dragon turtle looked at Xian Yi with mixed feelings. Indeed, Xian Yang hated Xian Yi to the core. 7-star Black Sect had met its doom mainly due to Xian Yi. But at the same time, they were best friends, blood-forged brothers. Xian Yang's heart felt heavy at the sight of Xian Yi's willpower collapsing. I have no regrets after sending that lad into the reincarnation passage. Xian Yi smiled with no regard to his own thinning body. I've made all the preparations. All that's left is for the boy to understand it. It's time for me to leave, Xian Yi said as he looked at Xian Yang. Xian Yang, my brother, goodbye. Xian Yi finally disappeared without a trace. The heaven-shaking super-existence was finally gone. Xian Yang was heavy at heart and said nothing as Xian Yi gradually disappeared. After some time, he heaved a long sigh. Forget it, has gone, no reason to hold any more grudges. Xian Yi, so long. After sighing, Xian Yang tore through space and left. The other 7-star Black Sect experts all sighed. Soon the 7-star Black Sect experts, such as Emperor 13 and 1-star Man, left. The restrictions on the Earth were too great that if they stayed for any longer, the environment would have a detrimental impact on their health. Now that Xian Yi's plan had succeeded, they would continue to sleep. They would all spend their remaining time in slumber, Emperor 13 included. In a moment, the experts at Heaven's Horizon all left, all except for the eternal chaotic world experts headed by Emperor Bai. Emperor Bai, Abysmal Saint Master, and many more fell quiet. After some time, Ancestor Tian Chen asked, "Is it over?" "Yes, it is. Those that desired to return have done so, those who did not have gone back to sleep. The eternal chaotic world will not see any ancient era experts for a long time. Peace is finally restored." The great emperors around looked at each other but were not happy at all. Peace had indeed been restored at eternal chaotic world, but after the battle, the great emperors were full of awe and longing for the absolute beginning divine world instead. Unfortunately, that would not be possible now. They lived in a restricted land that protected them from absolute beginning divine world experts. But similarly, they could never leave. Sword Emperor should have survived, right? Abysmal Saint Master frowned. He did, Emperor Bai nodded. He had died, but his master Xian Yi took great efforts to revert spacetime and revived his soul, and sent it down the reincarnation tunnel. If I am not wrong, he sent him to the reincarnation tunnel towards absolute beginning divine world. They had all guessed it. Xian Yi's intention was to use the tunnel to send Jian Wushuang to the absolute beginning divine world. But with the lands completely under the control of those absolute beginning divine world experts, he could not rely on the link passage to send him towards the absolute beginning divine world. He used all means to send him there via the reincarnation passage instead. Turning back time, and sending him into the reincarnation passage. How powerful was that man? Is that what the absolute beginning divine world experts can do? Amazing. We may be great emperors of this earth, admired by many, but we are no more than frogs trapped in a well. Our trapped vision will never let us see the vast lands of the absolute beginning divine world. I wonder when we can go there. The great emperors all longed for the place. But they could not go to it. Unless the expert Xian Yi revived and built another reincarnation passage for them, it was impossible. Listen up. Emperor Bai's gaze turned solemn. Nothing about today can be divulged to the outside world. Absolute beginning divine world must never be mentioned within the eternal chaotic world. The great emperors flinched but nodded. They understood Emperor Bai's purpose. Absolute beginning divine world was too vast, even the great emperors had no chance to interact with it, much less the normal cultivators. It was better to hide it and let the eternal chaotic world cultivators live in bliss and ignorance. As for Sword Emperor, Emperor Bai paused, and said, "You can inform his parents and his close friends about what really happened to Sword Emperor, but publicly, Sword Emperor died during the battle between the Sanctuary Alliance and Ancient Era experts, understood?" Understood, the great emperors nodded once again. Although the Sword Emperor is no longer here, his achievements and sacrifices for the Sanctuary Alliance and the eternal chaotic world can never be surpassed. No one will ever lay their hands on his hometown Green Fire world and lineage of stars. Anyone who does that will be the enemy of the Sanctuary Alliance, an enemy of me. Emperor Bai's voice was stern as he stared at those great emperors. Those words were for the great emperors in front of him. The Green Fire world and lineage of stars were powerful by themselves. No one would have dared touch it without the help of a great emperor. Emperor Bai had to deter the great emperors from thinking otherwise. The great emperors looked at each other. They dared not think otherwise with Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang's remaining influence around. Let's go. The great emperors soon left. Word of the Sword Emperor collapsing spread like wildfire across the eternal chaotic world. Countless cultivators sighed for the loss of such a genius, a legend. Once one has collapsed, no matter how glorious his past was, he would eventually be forgotten and become no more than a legend. Sanctuary Alliance great emperors knew that he was not dead. Perhaps one day Jian Wushuang would return. But that would be many, many years later. Chapter 2291 Incineration Moon City, 9 years of snow, the core of the earth, the absolute beginning divine world. Incineration Moon City, a normal city in the absolute beginning divine world. It was an afternoon of early summer. The skies were supposed to be clear, but instead, snow was falling all over the city. Snow fell from the sky like goose feathers, coating the entire Incineration Moon City in a layer of silver. Strangely, the snow did not fall for only a day or two. It had started a long time ago and had not stopped since. The streets were crowded. Despite the harsh weather, people wore thin layers of clothing, not one bit afraid of the cold. Occasionally, armored soldiers would walk past and melt the accumulated snow on the streets with their pure divine power. Thank the heavens for those soldiers. Without them, the city would have long been buried in snow. In a tavern, many cultivators gathered for drinks and laughs. What is wrong with this weather? Ever since I entered this city, the snow has not stopped, a burly man with a battle saber complained as he watched the snow fall from the comfort of the tavern. Haha, you must be new, a purple-haired elder looked over and said, stay a while longer and you'll get used to it. Get used to it? The burly man was confused and asked, brother, what do you mean? It's early summer now, how can it be snowing for days? Days? Haha, wrong. The snow has been falling for years, the purple-haired elder replied. Years? You're kidding, right? The burly man was shocked. I'm not. I've been here for the longest time. The snow has been falling for about 10 years. 9 years and 9 months, to be specific, and it has never stopped, the purple-haired elder said. How is that possible? The burly man was amazed. Perhaps there is an elite expert behind the snow? Artificial snow? To him, that was the only logical explanation. No snow could possibly go on for 9 years and 9 months naturally. Haha, I knew you would think that way. But I can assure you that the snow is natural. Sure, it's weird, but there's a reason behind it, the purple-haired elder laughed heartily. Reason? What reason? The burly man asked continuously. The other cultivators gathered as well. They knew that the snow had lasted for 9 years and 9 months, but no one knew why, and they all wanted to know. The reason? The purple-haired elder was baiting them. The burly man took out 2 bottles of good wine from his Chen Kuan ring and placed it in front of him. Brother, tell us. The purple-haired elder smiled at the sight of wine. It's a rumor around the city. I cannot confirm the legitimacy of it either. He continued, apparently, when our incineration moon governor Zhuo Yunfeng's wife had her 3rd child 9 years ago, the snow started and has never stopped since. The burly man frowned and said, Brother, this is obviously fake. How can someone being pregnant have anything to do with the snow? It is simply a coincidence. The other cultivators felt similarly. But the purple-haired elder smiled. What if the child has yet to be born till now? What? That unsettled everyone. Pregnant for 9 years, till now? It couldn't be. That's the rumor. Ever since Zhuo Yunfeng's wife Luo Xinqin fell pregnant, the snow has fallen. 9 years and 9 months have passed, and yet the child is still unborn. No coincidence there. The purple-haired elder smiled. The burly man and the other cultivators in the tavern nodded in agreement. It was indeed weird. The snow was weird. The unborn child was weirder. It could not be a coincidence for both to happen concurrently. People are saying it's a demon. It's been long rumored in the incineration moon city that Luo Xinqin is pregnant with the devil, a monster, the purple-haired elder added. The others agreed. An unborn creature for 9 years and 9 months had to be a monster. But at the absolute beginning divine world, where power triumphed over all, a monster could be a good thing instead. After all, monsters would have their advantages, and many sects in the absolute beginning divine world would undoubtedly want one under their wing. Governor Zhuo Yunfeng had a good reputation in the city as well. Even though people were talking about Luo Xinqin and her child, no one pointed it out and had no contempt or disgust for it. The burly man felt content after paying 2 bottles of fine wine for an interesting story. After some ruckus, the crowd dispersed. Incineration Moon City, within the governor's palace. Governor Zhuo Yunfeng was a man of his word, and a very fair man as well. He was deeply respected within the city. In the conference hall of his huge manor, a silver-robed, powerful middle-aged man with a little stubble was discussing issues with a guard commander under him. He was Zhuo Yunfeng. A maid hurried in. Sir, sir. The maid shouted for him as she ran in. Zhuo Yunfeng frowned and asked, what is the rush? The maid saw the guard commander and realized that Zhuo Yunfeng was discussing business, and so she apologized. Speak, what is it? Zhuo Yunfeng asked calmly. Sir, Mom is about to give birth, the maid replied. What? Zhuo Yunfeng flinched, then rushed over towards Luo Xinqin's room excitedly, disregarding the guard commander. Chapter 2292 Taoist priest Xian Shun from outside the incineration moon city, a green-robed, white-haired elder walked over slowly, barefoot. The weathered elder was holding a piece of cloth, with the words Tong Shun, all-powerful, and Swan Ming, fortune-telling. When he reached the incineration moon city's entrance, he paused for a moment to see the snowfall in the city. An unfathomable smile appeared on his wrinkled face. This day has finally come. After pausing, the barefoot elder walked into the city. It was the middle of the night, but the governor's mansion was well lit, with large hordes of people moving back and forth hurriedly. In the inner courtyard, a number of people stood there anxiously. Governor Zhuo Yunfeng was pacing around. It's been so many hours, the rascal still does not want to come out. Zhuo Yunfeng scolded as he paced around. Father, there's no rush, you have already waited for 9 years and 9 months. What are these few hours to you? The cold young man, 16 or 17 years of age, replied with a smile. He was Zhuo Yunfeng's eldest son, Zhuo Peng. Zhuo Yunfeng had a son and a daughter, but the daughter was not in the city at the moment. What do you know? It's because he's been inside for so long, Zhuo Yunfeng replied. Zhuo Peng smiled but did not say anything more. At that moment, A servant hurried in. "Sir, a Taoist priest is outside waiting to see you," the servant said. "What time is it already?" "Just refuse him." Zhuo Yunfeng waved his hand. He was in no mood to meet an irrelevant Taoist priest. "Sir, the man is named Taoist priest Shen Shen. He said you would definitely meet him if you heard his name," the servant replied. "Taoist priest Shen Shen?" Zhuo Yunfeng flinched for a moment. Even Zhuo Peng was shocked. Taoist priest Shen Shen was a big shot at Anzhou Commandery. Even Anzhou Commandery's governor had plenty of respect for him. Anzhou Commandery had a lot of clans and families and were all-powerful experts. Many even guessed that Taoist priest Shen Shen was a super expert. No governor could afford to offend such a big shot. He could visit such people in his daily life, but now this Taoist priest Shen Shen had come down personally. "It's really Taoist priest Shen Shen?" Zhuo Yunfeng was somewhat unsure. "That's what he said," the servant replied. "Send him in," Zhuo Yunfeng said, then waved his hand. "No, I'll bring him in myself." Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng rushed towards the main gates. The two soon reached the entrance and indeed saw a smiling, green-robed, barefoot elder holding a piece of cloth. Zhuo Yunfeng determined that the man looked exactly like the famed Taoist priest Shen Shen, and he could not see through him, as if the man was a vast ocean, but he could only interpret a droplet of him. "It's definitely Taoist priest Shen Shen," Zhuo Yunfeng was sure, and bowed. "Greetings Taoist elder, Zhuo Yunfeng at your service." "You're too kind, I should be paying my respects instead, Governor." Taoist priest Shen Shen bowed as well. "May I ask what brings you here today?" Zhuo Yunfeng asked humbly. He would have asked him to come in for tea on a usual day, but that day was no usual day. He was too anxious to have any small talk with him. "Governor Zhuo, truth be told, I'm here for the soon-to-be-born kid," Taoist priest Shen Shen smiled. Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng were shocked. The servants and maids beside them were dumbfounded as well. Zhuo Yunfeng had given orders for no news to be spread regarding his wife Luo Xinqin's long pregnancy. Furthermore, the news about Luo Xinqin going into labor could only be known by some people within the governor mansion. But Taoist priest Shen Shen, like a prophet, knew that the child was about to be born. "Governor Zhuo, you not going to let me in?" Taoist priest Shen Shen smiled. Zhuo Yunfeng immediately reacted. "How could I refuse? Please." Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng soon brought Taoist priest Shen Shen to that door in the inner courtyard. Thinking of what was happening inside, Zhuo Yunfeng could no longer calm himself down and started pacing around. Taoist priest Shen Shen smiled. "No rush, Governor, nothing's wrong with the child, it's simply not time yet." Zhuo Yunfeng stopped and looked towards him. "Elder, then when will my child be born?" "At the latter part of the Z hour, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., Taoist priest Shen Shen smiled. The surrounding people frowned. "How can you be so sure, Taoist elder?" Zhuo Yunfeng asked. Even though others regarded Taoist priest Shen Shen like a deity, Zhuo Yunfeng had to see it to believe it. "I observe the weather. This snow that has been going on for 9 years and 9 months will eventually stop at the later part of the Z hour, making it 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days. 9 is a good number. 3 nines make it an excellent progression. The little boy will come out then," Taoist priest Shen Shen said. Zhuo Yunfeng's suspicions grew further. Zhuo Peng directly asked, "Elder, that's too abstract, don't you think? What 3 nines? So if the child is born another 9 hours later, would that not make it 4 nines? Also, how do you know the child will be a boy?" "Don't be rude, Peng," Zhuo Yunfeng scolded, but deep inside he felt the same. Taoist priest Shen Shen's words were too abstract for him to believe. Taoist priest Shen Shen simply smiled. "Watch and see," he said. Time passed. "Sir, it's the Z hour now," a servant said. "Okay," Zhuo Yunfeng nodded. Another hour passed by. "Sir, it's the latter half of the Z hour now," the servant said again. But before he could finish his sentence, a refreshing wail of a baby resounded across the room. Chapter 2293. Sword from the Heavens, Jian Wushuang. The wail was like the rising sun. As he wailed, The snow that had been falling for 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days, suddenly stopped. Incineration Moon City's snow melted instantly, and the bitter cold that once could be felt at every corner of the city was no more. The snow really stopped. The people in the inner courtyard were shocked. As the door opened, an old woman walked out with a baby wrapped in her arms. "Congratulations, Governor, it is a healthy boy," the old lady said with a smile. "Bring him over," Zhuo Yunfeng said. The old lady brought it over for Zhuo Yunfeng to check. "It really is a boy." Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng gulped. Everything the Taoist priest Shen Shun had said was correct. From the time, to the snow, and even down to the gender of the baby. "Elder, you are godlike indeed, I atone for my insolence," Zhuo Yunfeng immediately apologized to Taoist priest Shen Shun. "Elder Shen Shun, please forgive us," Zhuo Peng apologized as well. They only knew about the Taoist elder's reputation but had never seen him perform. But now they knew that he was a God-sent prophet. He was beyond man. Zhuo Yunfeng could be sure that Taoist elder Shen Shun was an all-knowing almighty. At least his rules of fate were at astonishing levels. "It's nothing much, no need to worry." Taoist priest Shen Shun smiled without any malice. Zhuo Yunfeng took a deep breath, looked at the baby, and asked the Taoist priest Shen Shun, "Taoist elder, please bestow a name for our little guy." "A name?" Taoist priest Shen Shun raised his eyebrow. "I'm here not just to bestow a name, I need to change his surname as well." "Surname?" Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng were shocked. He was born in the Zhuo household, Zhuo Yunfeng's son. But Taoist priest Shen Shun wanted to change his surname? "Governor Zhuo, your son is special. His surname has been predestined," Taoist priest Shen Shun said. Zhuo Yunfeng frowned, but still said, "Please do so." "No rush, wait," Taoist priest Shen Shun said as he looked up towards the dark void. Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng looked up, confused, but he did not see anything. "It's coming," Taoist priest Shen Shun said. Right after he said that, the black void rumbled as the darkness retreated to make way for a streak of light. The streak of light gradually lit up the place and was increasingly glaring as it approached the earth. Shio. Like an asteroid, the streak of light struck the inner courtyard. A huge hole was blown up. Everyone in the inner courtyard, including Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng, were dumbfounded. As the dust settled, they saw a sword in the ground. The sword was 4 kai, about 1.3 m, tall with no scabbard. The blade itself was crimson red as if it was drenched in blood. "This is," Zhuo Yunfeng and the others stared at the sword. The long sword looked ordinary, but Zhuo Yunfeng saw an incomprehensible hell within it. Countless bones and endless streams of blood flowed within that hell. It was a sword of death. "What a terrifying sword," Zhuo Yunfeng murmured, but he was even more appalled. Because the sword had come from the heavens. From the heavens? "Governor Zhuo, your kid was born by the sword and should take up the surname Jian, meaning sword. For his name, because he was in your wife's womb for 9 years, 9 months and 9 days, unparalleled in this earth. Name him Wushuang. Wushuang will be his name," Taoist priest Shen Shun exclaimed. "Jian as a surname, Wushuang as his name. Jian Wushuang?" Zhuo Yunfeng flinched, but quickly responded, "Unparalleled on this earth, with a sword in hand, a good name." "Thank you for bestowing the name," Zhuo Yunfeng thanked. Taoist priest Shen Shun laughed, "I am here for his name only. Now that that's settled, I shall be on my way." Taoist priest Shen Shun did not turn away immediately but instead looked at the baby. The baby's eyes were already wide open, staring at Taoist priest Shen Shun. "Little boy, we will meet again." Taoist priest Shen Shun made his way out of the mansion. "Thank you, elder," Zhuo Yunfeng and Zhuo Peng bowed as he left. "Ha ha." Taoist priest Shen Shun laughed casually as he disappeared from the view of others in a matter of moments. "Taoist priest Shen Shun really is something else," Zhuo Yunfeng exclaimed. "Father, are we really going to name him Jian Wushuang?" Zhuo Peng asked. "Of course, this is the name Taoist elder gave. You yourself saw the sword descend from above. The name is but a tag, we can call him Jian Wushuang, we can also call him Zhuo Wushuang, it's the same," Zhuo Yunfeng laughed. "Of course," Zhuo Peng nodded. They both were extremely excited about the newborn baby. "Oh yes, let us show your mother," Zhui Yunfeng said as they headed into the room. What the duo did not notice was that the baby's black eyes had a glimpse of shock within them. His gaze never shifted from the direction Taoist priest Xian Shun had left in. Who was that Taoist priest? Jian Wushuang shouted in his heart, but he could not form any words. All that came from him were the wails of a baby. Jian Wushuang had yet to understand what had happened. He only remembered obtaining his wife Lung Rushuang's soul at Heaven's Horizon and being chased down by two masters of Holy Land. He was dying. But the moment he woke up, everything had changed. Chapter 2294 The Reason Behind Everything Part 1 Jian Wushuang was placed on the bed beside a dignified woman. She was Luo Xinqin. "Mother, look, brother's nose and mouth look exactly like yours," Zhuo Peng said by the bed. Luo Xinqin smiled and looked at Jian Wushuang with love. Jian Wushuang was completely stunned. "I'm a baby? Is this reincarnation?" Jian Wushuang thought. But soon, a message entered Jian Wushuang's mind. The message was from his master Xian Yi. He finally knew what had happened to him. "So I see, I was dead. Master did a space-time reversal to revive my soul, and sent me down the reincarnation passage," Jian Wushuang thought. He did not know that his wife had been sent down the reincarnation passage as well. Xian Yi left him more than that message. Jian Wushuang started reading about everything that was happening. "Disciple, you should have reincarnated at the absolute beginning divine world by now. You will continue to grow there, and you should know why. As your master, you should have guessed it, but I'm the guy with the huge forehead back at Green Fire World, the man you saw in your head, in that ancient display." He had already guessed Xian Yi's identity. When he saw that ancient display, he had guessed that that man that fought against the heavens was likely his master. In the absolute beginning divine world, the man had been forced into a corner during an ancient battle, and then did something to crumble the earth. That should have been the restriction formation at eternal chaotic world, sealing it away from the absolute beginning divine world. When eternal chaotic world fought against the three emperors world, Xian Yi could control it with a flick of his hand. Xian Yi was naturally the owner of that formation. Jian Wushuang read on. "I was born in the absolute beginning divine world as a unique, perfect chaotic life form, taking a purpose with me since day one. I had to fulfill my purpose no matter how tough it was. I was a sworn brother of the two founders of the Seven-Star Black Sect, and I was so close to fulfilling that purpose with the help of the Seven-Star Black Sect. But at the final moment, a mutiny happened, 3 big holy land, 4 big holy tribes, 8 big holy sects, and countless absolute beginning divine world experts, interest-driven, slaughtered their way into the 7-star divine realm. I was powerful, but there were too many of them. We had to retreat. The 7-star Black Sect faced elimination because of me. I had to seal the 7-star divine realm out of desperation to protect the 7-star Black Sect from a total wipeout." Jian Wushuang understood everything so far. He had only known how the ancient battle had been fought and ended previously. Now he knew why. It was because of Xian Yi. His master as a unique perfect chaotic lifeform had been born with a mission. The 7-star Black Sect had simply helped him fulfill it. But at the final moment, absolute beginning divine world opposing forces had stopped it. He could understand why that mysterious 7-star Black Sect expert at the 8th layer was so angry with his master. The battle had started because of his master Xian Yi, leading to the end of the 7-star Black Sect. It was normal to have hatred for him. But what was a perfect chaotic life form? As a perfect chaotic life form, what purpose did he have? Jian Wushuang kept on reading. "After that battle, before I died, although I sealed up the 7-star divine realm, it took too much blood essence and divine power from so many experts. It drew 99% of the 7-star divine realm's spiritual influence of heaven and earth as well, leading it to becoming a basically barren land. As the restriction formation continued to operate, the demand for the spiritual influence of heaven and earth increased, leading to worse cultivating environments for the first era and second era experts. That was how the restriction on the earth was created. Under those circumstances, The remaining 7-star Black Sect experts had to sleep. I may have lost my body, but not my willpower, and that was active the entire time, thinking about how to solve that sticky situation. The 7-star Black Sect and I may have lost then, but many experts were always indignant about it. We all wanted to fight our way back into the absolute beginning divine world. But, how tough was that? Jian Wushuang paused and sighed. Indeed, the 7-star Black Sect had lost badly in that war. The 7-star divine realm had only been preserved due to that restriction formation. Without that, 7-star divine realm and the 7-star Black Sect would have become history. Xian Yi's formation had given them a slim fighting chance. But it was too slim. It had protected the 7-star divine realm, but it had turned it into barren land, incapable of breeding experts. The 7-star Black Sect experts could only sleep to retain their powers. Under those circumstances, how could they fight their way back into the absolute beginning divine world? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,